Hello, Lund loyalists. John Lund Unleashed YouTubers, those watching on X and Instagram and listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure you subscribe, like, and turn on your alerts so you never miss a show. And for all things Unleashed, go to johnlundunleashed.com. Live shows, archives, the blog, social media, links, and more. Now likely nursing a hangover. Unshaven, unshowered, and a 50-50 chance of his teeth being brushed. Here's Johnny. Here's Johnny.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. It is Thursday. It is the first official day of the NFL Combine. Oh, my name's in the corner again. I hate that. Oh, well, we'll fix it a little bit later. Thank you for joining us. By the way, just to kick off the show, have you heard about this? You have heard about the insider fight at Starbucks. So Adam Schefter just put this out under his account. It says "head on a swivel," and it's him with the logo of the Starbucks, because everybody at the NFL, like, you want to go to any kind of an event, whether it's the Super Bowl week or anything. I told you yesterday the Jay Moore story about him cutting in line at Moscone Center, Super Bowl 50. Like, Starbucks and a Super Bowl event, like, is the place to be. And Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport got in a fight yesterday at one. So not a physical fight, but yelled at each other apparently. And then NFL security had to get involved. And so Schefter's first thing out today was Indianapolis, head on a swivel. Very well done, Adam Schefter. Very well done. Man, do we have a ton. And I normally say that, but I really mean it today. Thursday edition of the program, tons from John Lynch, who spoke at the Combine. That is what the cover was. I should say that for episode 72. There's John Lynch yesterday. And you can see in the left, my left, your right, Debo, Purdy, Kittle, Dre, Jake Moody, all the issues surrounding the 49ers. But it wasn't a person. It was not a person that was most interesting of what John Lynch said. It was a direction, maybe. And I talked about it on the Krug Show last night with Larry Krueger, which you can check out. I've got that on my YouTube page, John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. You can check out all the archives and so forth. But I will play a lot of that video for you today. So don't go anywhere. Plus, we hearken back to George Kittle and what he said about his contract going into his last year, back to Radio Row. I've got maybe the dunk of the year, Steph Curry anniversary day that we've got to play for you today. Speaking of Adam Schefter, we beat him to the punch on this one. And if it's Combine start, at least on the field, we have to go back and show you this. So we have a ton to do today. In addition to that, some fun stuff to talk about. It probably won't happen, but I've told you, guys will slip. Like Michael Parsons, where the Niners have the 11th pick. Micah Parsons slipped into that range. Jalen Carter slipped into that range. The reason why there's either off-the-field issues, as in the case of those guys, or injuries, which Abdul Carter, who might be the number one overall pick and best player, has, and his agent's Drew Rosenhaus. So we'll tell you how that could affect the 49ers, because if he's on the board because of some of these issues, now we're talking. So we'll do that kind of stuff as well. What else today? Jordan Hicks pitched yesterday. Gene Hackman has passed away. We got a ton of stuff. So before we go out to the roll call, welcome to all new. And, it's almost like, when I'm trying to think of like a phone company will say all new customers get X, Y, and Z. And the old customer, I've called them before and go, why can't I get that deal? Like, I've been with you for like 5 years, Verizon, let's go. And finally they'll give it to you, but you have to ask. So first of all, welcome. We'll do roll call in a minute, but to everybody who is new, and the community is constantly growing, thank you so much for finding us. John Lund Unleashed, that is the YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Make sure you turn your alerts on, because we put out stuff all throughout the day, not just the show, which is 8 a.m.-ish Pacific time, and then we go for however long it takes. And today might take a long time, but I forgot to DVR the Combine. I hope my wife is watching. DVR the Combine, please. I need to have the DVR Combine, or the Combine DVR. I almost said DVR Combine DVR, please. That's what I need. But we got a ton of stuff. So before we get to roll call, thank you. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Also, make sure that you're watching. If you're watching on Instagram or X, which is at John Lund Radio, you can come on over here. And the blog today has a great piece, and it has everything if you can't wait, because I am going to go through all of these things with you and explain what John Lynch meant by a lot of these things. If you can't wait, I understand. Maybe you've got a life, which I don't. If you do, I completely understand. So we can actually go to the blog today. Did I not add a new post? Oh, here we go. Right there on your screen, if you want to go ahead and check it out, I wrote the whole piece there. 49ers John Lynch spoke at the NFL Combine. What you need to know. There's a short little video of me. And then there's Brock Purdy latest, Deebo gone, Big Trent's going to be back, Dre and Huff, CMC update. Starts Ayuk, ends with getting younger and cheaper. That's what I'm going to start with today because that, I think, is the most interesting thing he said. There's George Kittle back at the Super Bowl because there was no video. They took him off to the side on that, so we'll tell you about that. And then the quote from our good friend Tracy Sandler at Tracy FGSN. Please follow her. The team still has a lot of belief in Jake Moody and feel the injury was a large part of his struggles. Lynch said they've had very honest discussions with Jake. Like, get the ball through the uprights or we're cutting your ass. Is that honest enough for you? He'll have true competition. So there is, if you can't wait, you can check out the blog. We update the blog. That is the website itself. You can check everything out. And just while I'm here, I might as well just show you the rest of the stuff. Me, your host, latest YouTube shows. The live one will be put up there in just a second. Podcasts, latest blog posts, and merch. You can even get merch there. So that's all the stuff that we've got on the blogs and on the website, johnlundunleashed.com. Lots of good stuff for you to check out. So make sure that you please do that. So that's what's going on over at the website. So we got to make sure we do that. As far as the chalkboard is concerned, we always go by the chalkboard. We might go random every now and then and get back onto things, but it is episode 72. That means John Lynch speaks. I'll get you all the video and commentary to follow. Brock Purdy is one of the main things, but I'm going to tell you, the main thing to me is the direction that the 49ers are talking about. Can they still win and do this? We'll discuss. NFL insider fight, as I told you, between Ian Rappaport and Jordan Schultz, which is pretty hilarious. Speaking of insiders, Adam Schefter went on with Pat McAfee this morning and basically just laid out what I've been saying for days because we're always ahead of things here, even ahead of the insiders, about Stafford and Darnold. And he put out the exact argument that I've been doing for a number of days. Abdul Carter maybe is the best player in the draft, but he could drop because of an injury. We'll get into that conversation. Could he drop to 11? That would be amazing. Combine starts today, which means we got to play you a video to warn you about the combine, but I love the whole thing. You know that. Jordan Hicks throwing at 100 and had an interesting thing to say afterwards, which kind of rolls into why he shouldn't be starting. We'll discuss. The Warriors are in Orlando taking on the Magic. Hi, kids, it's Mickey. I got great Orlando stories. I've done some work in Orlando and absolutely had a ball. It's not just about Disney World down there. On this day, double bang. We'll play that for you. It might have been the best dunk of the year, plus Kevin Calabro on the call, and Casey is vastly underrated. Remember him in his Sonics days with Sean Kemp and that kind of stuff and dunking over Alton Lister. Kevin Calabro for a long time has been one of the best play-by-play voices in the NBA, and we get a chance to listen to him on this great dunk. Random stuff, if you're new, happens all throughout the show. All I have to do is go over to the chat line and then sends me in all sorts of directions. And Gene Hackman passes away. And to be completely honest, I would normally just take the chance and play some Gene Hackman for you. But, man, the YouTube police are all over you. So you play something and they're like, oh, copyrighted. I'm like, Gene Hackman passed away, man. Can't I just play a little bit of Hoosiers or, some of his iconic roles? And they get all pissy. And it's like, I'm kind of promoting the guy, but whatever everybody wants to do. So anyway, great to have everybody. Hurley Bird is here. Skills, Jeff. Hello. Who else do we have here today? We have everybody, man. Everybody already is just cranking it out. Hurley Bird is here today. Joy, good morning. Joy was with us on the Crew Show for a little bit yesterday. Franco, it's good to see you again. Enrique Pine Needle, all my favorites are here today, which excites me. Hello, John Holmes. Very nice. Stand back. Jazz Fan is here today. Man, this is awesome. So very good, man. We've already got a ton of stuff going on. Let's see here. Wow, look at all these questions. Harry Johnson's already got that. I got to start hitting some of these. We already got some starred stuff going on. Morning, Lund. Harry is here. I love that. Thank you, Harry Johnson. And thank you for the donation. Just so you know where the donations go. I try to keep them in-house. I have an ex-wife. I have a kid in college. You are saving my life. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it, Harry Johnson. Give him another minute. That is awesome. Harley Bird, just because it's right there. Could he slip to the Niners? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? JJ Rader is here today. Man, we got a ton of people in the room today. Absolutely tremendous. So a great start. Roll call is finished, and we got to get to stuff as we're already 10 minutes into the show. One more new one. Hi, 707. It is amazing. Podcast staffer from the State Hornet. What is your mindset before working? What are some things you do to prepare? Thank you, 707. Since you asked, I'll start with that because, like I said, you throw some money my way. I'm cheap, and I'll absolutely positively answer your question. Let me get that back up there just for a second. I'll tell you this without being too long-winded because there is a ton of stuff to get to today, and people don't have time. But I'll just say this. You've got to make it seem like you didn't prepare at all, but you prepare for hours. I'm a stickler for preparation. 27 years in the radio business, and I wouldn't say I produced my own show because that's not accurate, but I wrote a website every single day, and I'm a junkie. I have a pad by my bedside. I constantly think about things. I'm in my car. I'm thinking about it. It's 24/7, 365 for me, content. And it's not about what I like. It's about what the show's about. So you've got to deliver every single day a great show, which means if I go to McDonald's and it's a Big Mac, I don't care if it's here or Germany, it better taste like a Big Mac. So my point is that every time I open up the mic, every time I turn the camera on, it better be the stuff that everybody's expecting. I better hit the right stories like John Lynch speaking. I am meticulous in my preparation. I've got about 12 pieces of video in front of me, and I edit them and make sure they're great. And I make sure that there are no what I call B stories. Everything's an A story. Everything's what people should be talking about in our demographic, which hopefully is everybody. And whether it's local, whether it's national, you can talk about anything you want. You can talk about a spoon, but as long as you're entertaining in what you talk about, that's all it is. But you have to be prepared. And it's almost like you walk into a test and you're nervous because you didn't prepare. Every single day, that's how I feel. And I've been doing this almost 30 years. And I feel like every single day I have a responsibility to you because you could go anywhere, especially on YouTube. I used to say this on the radio. Hey, man, you could go anywhere. And we really appreciate you stopping by. But when I first started in radio, it was like the radio dial, and that's all you got. Then you go past that, and it's all these different platforms nowadays that you're competing with. And I've got to be great. And if I'm not every single day, so that motivates me to get my butt out of bed, to stay in this studio for 12 or 14 or 16 or how many ever hours it takes. I watched John Lynch yesterday. I get the video, I cut it up, I write a piece about it. Like I'm meticulous in how I believe. I tell my son this all the time, and then we can move on to the show, 707. But since you asked, I tell my son who's in this business as well at the age of 21, hey, us Lunds, we're not all that smart, but I'll tell you this, nobody's going to outwork us. So I outwork everybody. That's what I try to do. And there's no magic in that. It's just that, you know what, if it takes, like last night, I'm not looking for accolades here, but I was here till 2:00 in the morning and I'm up at 5:30 because that's how I feel about the show. And that's what I want to deliver to people, is that I just outwork people. To be honest with you, 707, I just outwork everybody. And then here's the other part of it. Once I'm prepared, and hopefully this comes across, then I can relax and have fun, because this is what this is. In fact, my stepson was just in the kitchen. He says to me, man, my two worst subjects are today. Science, math, and history. This is my least favorite day. I said, here's a great lesson for you. I said, those three things that you don't like, work your butt off, because then you don't have to do those things the rest of your life. Do something that you really enjoy. You know, so if you don't like those subjects, you better work really, really hard so that doesn't become your future in your life. So I don't mean to give a life lesson here, but since you asked, outwork everybody and make sure you're having a bunch of fun and you're passionate about what you're doing. Because I'm passionate about what I talk about every single day, whether it's something that's personal, whether it's something that's sports related, whether it's something, I don't put anything up on that chalkboard. And you know this, if you watch with any regularity, I don't put up anything on that chalkboard that I don't think is great to talk about and passionate. And I'm not going to hit every single day, but I effort, and I can feel good at the end of every show that I efforted as much as I possibly could. It may not always work, but I'm also willing to take chances. That's the other thing. Just last thing, I'm always willing to take chances. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So what? Throw it away, move on. But sometimes you hit, and then you're like, whoa, that became just a benchmark of the show, and it's awesome. All right, moving on. All right, let's start with John Lynch speaking. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on such a tangent, but if someone's going to ask an intricate question, and will you all remind me later? Maybe I got to do this really quickly. I'm not going to name a name, but one of the most, I got one of the best emails I've ever gotten in my entire career, over almost 30 years, yesterday. I'm not going to tell who it is, but it's a regular person that is in this chat room. a friend that we all know. And this is why this chat room is so awesome and the people are. So if you're listening on some sort of other platform, that's totally awesome. But I'm telling you, this is a great, great community that we're building. By the way, this is not it's not like, oh my God, because you look at some of the other numbers on YouTube and they'll blow your mind. But we've only been doing this a few months on this platform, and we hit 3,000 subscribers today. So thank you. I owe you a debt of gratitude, and we're growing and we're growing and we're growing every single day. But we hit 3,000 today, which is really cool. But I get an email yesterday after the show, and it was from one of our viewers that's going through a divorce. And I went through a divorce, and it was not fun. And at the time George was 10, and it was not enjoyable. I mean, I got to be honest, it's not enjoyable. And I used radio as this getaway and this solitude. And so I explained to this person who asked me, I have children, and he's at the bitter part of the divorce, which is really hard, the beginning part. And there's jealousy, and you're mad and you're angry and you're all these emotions every single day. And it's hard to sleep. And you think about the old days and all this kind of stuff. It's just really, unless you've gone through it, there's really no way to describe it. Ups and downs, roller coaster, all that kind of stuff. And he was great enough to open up to me and say, can you help me? And so I probably wrote way too long of an email back, but I just, to try to just say, look, this too shall pass. I know that's overly simplistic, but I don't want to get too deep into it, but this too shall pass. But the whole point of someone reaching out to me and to say, hey man, I need your advice on something like this, I took it completely seriously. And it was an honor to say, hey, here's what I learned. It doesn't mean that I'm right. It just means this is what I did to get through it. So I just really appreciate that person, and am entirely honored that they would reach out to me of all people to say, hey man, how did you get through it? It just meant a ton to me to have somebody do that. So we have my point is that we really have a great community here, and I'm very appreciative of everybody that watches, listens. Maybe it's later, maybe it's on a podcast, maybe it's later on the YouTube. One last thing, I swear, as we're 17 minutes into this show and have accomplished nothing on the board. Once somebody asked me yesterday as well, somebody emailed me and said, hey, how can I go back and watch things? Well, after the show, first thing I do is hit a button and it goes out to the podcast. So Apple, Spotify, all those places, John Lund Unleashed. But then the second thing I do is I redo the notes on the show. And essentially what happens is that they're, computer generated, AI generated. And what I do is I put a chapter. So if you click on this afterwards and you're watching this afterwards, there's chapters. So if you're like, I don't want to hear Lund ramble on about emails or things like this or 3,000 followers, I just want to get into the combine stuff. And so you can click to these things on the chapters right after I finish. It might take a half hour, but then we have chapters up. And so you can click on the show and it breaks itself down into chapters. So if you want to hear, like the guy was like, why weren't you talking Warriors? And we were at the end of the show and I had talked Warriors. And if you look at the chalkboard and you're new in here, we just go by the chalkboard. And so I talk about everything, maybe not at length, but I talk about everything. So let's say see that Golden State Orlando about 3/4 of the way, it says GS at ORL. That's Warriors at Orlando, Warriors at Magic. We'll hit that at some point, but we have a ton of NFL. And with John Lynch speaking, we're going to spend a lot of time on that. But if you wanted to fast forward to that kind of stuff, or Best Dunk or Random or Gene Hackman, it's got chapters, and you can just click right on those and it'll pass to all the other BS that I talk about. And then you're good to go. So that's just a little something to know if you want to get on to other things. All right, let's do this, shall we? John Lynch speaks. Let's just start. I don't know if let's do it. You know what? Let's do it in order of importance. It's going to screw me up because then I'm going to forget what I played and what I didn't, because I don't have them in any kind of order and I have tons of video. But let's just do this. Video courtesy of our good friend David Lombardi, at Lombardi himself on, I think, Instagram and Twitter, X, and all those kind of things, at Lombardi himself. Make sure you follow me. He's a great 49ers insider. He's at the Combine in Indianapolis, and you can follow his YouTube page as well. Please don't do it right now because we're in the middle of a show, but make sure that you follow David Lombardi because he is outstanding, and he shot all this video that I stole, but I want to give him tons of credit. All right, this is the thing that I think is most important. I know there's Brock Purdy and Deebo Samuel and all those things that are juicy, but I want you to listen to what John Lynch says here. Because they're not rebuilding. They're not even retooling. They do believe they're in a Super Bowl window. I know that for a fact. But what he says here about the way they're going to spend and the way they're going to approach the offseason is really, really important. In fact, I think it's the most important thing that he said yesterday. So let me play this for you.
5 years, I think or 4 years. Going into the fourth year, I think we're the fourth highest cash spending team. So we're at some point you have to reset a little bit, or at least recalibrate. You can't just keep pressing the pedal. And I think there's some good that can come out of it. We need to get younger. I think we're the oldest team in football, trying to make a run at the deal last year, and I think it's good to constantly get younger. Our draft class last year was a great move towards that. We'll have 4 picks in the top 100. If the comp picks happen like we see it, that's always a calculation. We'll have 10 picks overall, and we're excited about adding more youth to a great core of players that we already have.
All right, so here's why I think that's significant of what John Lynch said there. And like I tell you, it's lying season. You just don't know, but you could tell he's telling the truth there. And they've had these meetings. They've looked at their team. They know they're getting older. And essentially he's saying, look, we got to get younger. We got to get better. We got to hit the draft. Well, what he's talking about here is because imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Look at what the Eagles have done. And I've talked about this ad nauseum, but they win the Super Bowl. And so you say, well, how did they do that? Well, yeah, they've spent a bunch of money on guys like Jalen Hurts and Lane Johnson at right tackle, but they've got a lot of youth on their team. That's what's scary about the Eagles is that defensively they have a bunch of youth. Cooper DeJean, who had the interception in the Super Bowl, the pick 6, Quinyon Mitchell. The linebacking core is really young. Jalen Carter just finished his 2nd year. They're going to lose probably Josh Sweat. They might lose Zach Bond, who came over and was a 1-year revelation when he came over there. But by and large, Jalen Hurts is signed long-term. Saquon Barkley is in his prime. They've got Devontae Smith just got signed. So what they've done is they've nailed the draft, and they have a bunch of young players, and they've got a mix right now of players who are getting paid and players who have yet to be paid who are young. So they've got that mix. They're not top heavy. They've still got enough money to have depth on that team. Detroit is the same way, nailed about 3 consecutive drafts and have been awesome. They're the same kind of thing. They don't have the veterans and the leadership that the Eagles have across the board, but they've nailed a bunch of good young players. The Rams are the same way. We'll see what happens with Stafford. I'll address that a little bit later. But my point in saying all this is you look at the Niners who fancy themselves in a Super Bowl window. Essentially, if we want to cut through this, and this is why I'm here, to tell you what John Lynch really meant in that thing was we got to be like that. We're top heavy. So what they're going to do is make those really tough decisions that Bill Walsh made and Al Davis hated to make, and therefore the Raiders went like this and haven't won since. So who does this affect? Well, it's not going to affect George Kittle because I'll get into that in a minute. He's 30 plus, but he's earned it, by the way. He played last year. Fred Warner's got a $29.2 million cap hit. They're going to restructure him. They're not going to let him go. But what I'm saying is a guy like Hufanga, who's injured a lot, is not going to be a Niner. It's going to be questionable. If Dre Greenlaw wants to play on a 1-year deal, then Drake Greenlaw will come back. And he addresses Drake Greenlaw, and I'll play that for you in a minute. But some of these guys who are getting older and more expensive, they're just not going to be able to keep those guys. That's Deebo long-term. We'll get into Deebo in a second, why he's leaving. He's making a not-so-veiled statement on where they are and where they're going to be. Now, 2024, they had a really nice draft. But in order to win at a really high level, look back at the 49ers drafts in the Harbaugh years. Look back at the John and Kyle drafts and who the majority of those guys were that got them to multiple Super Bowls. They nailed the draft. And I'm not talking first round. I'm talking, 2 to 7 and sometimes the first round. But it was like boom, boom, boom. And you got to have like 3 of those in a row. And because of the Trey Lance trade, they didn't have a first-round pick. They got bailed out a bit by Purdy, of course, in 2022, but they didn't have first-round picks for 2 consecutive years, and they gave up the one, and they moved up, and they gave up other stuff. So that really hamstrung what they did in the draft. And in 22 and 23, and I know they got Brock in 22, but outside of that, the draft's terrible. 23 is not a good draft. So 24, they hit. But he's saying they got to hit 25 again, and they got to hit the 26 draft so that they can then get back on par because there's an evenness that has to happen from a financial standpoint, and that's not where they are. And we all know what happened with Buckner and trying to do Kinlaw, but those are the kind of things they're going to have to do. They're going to have to let some favorites go and pray and hope that they can have guys replace them, and that's where they are. And they have a lot of needs. We talk about it if the 49ers can hit some of these things, but interior defensive line. That's why today, interior defensive line, edge rushers, linebacker if Dre Greenlaw is leaving. Although I think there are some linebackers, Sherwood and Nick Bolton. Sherwood, the kid from the Jets that I keep talking about. Nick Bolton, who I don't think they can afford from Kansas City. And I don't know why Kansas City's letting him go, but he's great. So there's some guys there. There's some secondary guys. By the way, keep hearing the name Javon Holland, who went to Oregon. He's a Bay Area guy. and he plays for the Dolphins. He's only 25. I'd love for him to be at free safety. I just don't trust Jair Brown. So I don't know if they're going to have the money to dip into those guys because maybe those are first-day guys. And remember, for as excited as we got, oh, boy, the cap's going up. Yeah, the cap went up for everybody. So the guys who I thought they might be able to get, like a Drew Dahlman, for example, and play center, and he went to Stanford, and his dad was a Niner, and they need a center. I think he's going to get paid a ton of bread, and I'm not sure that the Niners are going to be able to be in on him. So that's another thing that I think John Lynch was saying there in a not-so-veiled attempt. Look, there's a lot of money out there now. There's a lot of teams who are flush with cash. And we've got to re-sign our own guys, Brock Purdy, George Kittle, redo some contracts. How much are they going to be able to do? And so Fungo's going to be gone. If Dre doesn't want to play ball on a one-year deal, he's going to be gone. There's going to be some guys that they just can't afford, and they've got to hit the draft. And essentially that's what he's saying. It's not that they won't be selectively aggressive, but they're not going to be day one spenders. They're going to have to kind of pick through the trash or go to a thrift store and say, okay, and maybe they'll hit somebody. Philly got Zach Bond and Saquon Barkley, and not for a ton of money, even Barkley. So they were selective in what they did, but the Niners are looking that way going, you got a bunch of youth and have hit drafts Philly and Detroit and the Rams, and they got to do the same thing. Or else they are going to grow old and they are going to be out of the window because they can't just keep throwing cash at it. And as John Lynch said, over the last 5 years, they have spent the most cash in the entire league. And it's not because Jed York's being cheap. It's just the rules of the NFL say that you can only do that for so long until the bill becomes due. And John Lynch is essentially saying, the bill has become due, so it's time for us. This is a massive draft, which don't get me started because I still don't understand why Kyle Shanahan's not there. Like I saw Mike McDonald, the head coach of the Seahawks, speak this morning. Most head coaches are there with their general manager, and I'm sure Kyle has a great reason in his head. I know he doesn't like to fraternize. I've told you that. He doesn't like to glad hand and smile and kiss babies and all those kind of things. I understand he doesn't like the political side of the game, and nor do I. I could never sit in a cubicle. That's just not me. And I get it, but this is a critical time. And I know that they get 30 visits and all that kind of stuff, but I want to see guys. I want to see how they interact. I want every second I can get in front of guys. Not that Kyle can't sit there and watch the combine. Not that Kyle doesn't get tape from the combine that you and I don't have. He can sit there and grind on that in his office, which he prefers all day long. But he doesn't get the feel. It's kind of like, when you go to a game versus watching a game on TV and they give you every single angle, and we have these great play-by-play guys and these great color analysts, and we think we have it all. We got beer in our fridge that we don't have to pay $25 for a 16-ouncer, and all is well. But when you go to a game, there's just a feel that you get of the game that you can't get through your TV or whatever device you're watching on. It's just a fact. And it's the same thing with a combine. You can't get the feel of a guy. You just can't, I want to get in front of the guys as much as I possibly can, so I can make an informed decision. And this is a massive draft. So I don't understand why he's not there, but I sound like a broken record when I say that. So there is number one, get cheaper is kind of that's how I phrased it, but I think they can still get better. So give me your thoughts on that. Here is John Lynch on the thing that's first on everybody's mind. What's going on with Brock?
Here and beyond, and we'll leave it at that. I think the final thing, there's no guarantees that we get something done, but my experience has been when both sides are motivated, there's ample opportunity to do so, and we've been able to do that. So,
John, they're getting something done. The reason I tell you this all the time, and I hate that I have to keep reminding you, and maybe you already know, and you're like, Lund, stop. But it's just a leverage thing. When people say something, and then what happens is a lot of times the media, which should be smarter than this, they report it back in a literal sense. So they'll say, well, John Lynch said this without giving it context. And the context of what John Lynch says there about Brock Purdy is that they were effusive in their praise in the end of the year press conference. We're keeping Brock. We love Brock. Brock's going to be here as long as we're going to be here. All that kind of stuff is great to say. But then when you start negotiations, either side, you'll start hearing both sides kind of pull back a little bit. They won't say as many nice things because it's a negotiation. So when John Lynch at the end or near the end there says, well, nothing's guaranteed. It's not a guarantee that Brock Purdy is going to get done. It's going to get done. I guarantee it. It's going to get done. It's just a matter of when it gets done. And I tell you this all the time. It's not an if with Brock Purdy. It's a when. And when matters because if they're going to get together and they're going to throw in the offseason, which I tell you, there's an issue with developing quarterbacks in this league. But I digress because I don't want to go down that road. It'll take forever. But if they want to go down to a place, as I tell you all the time, San Diego, Arizona, wherever they want to go, and Brandon Ayuk's going to be there, not at full speed, but Brandon Ayuk's going to be there, and Ricky Pearsall is going to be there, and Juwan Jennings is going to be there. And I don't know if Kittle is going to come from Nashville, but Cowing is going to be there. Some younger backs will probably be there. All these guys are going to be there, and it's how you get on the same page. It's how you develop chemistry. Because as I always tell you, there's 300-pound men trying to rip Brock Purdy's body apart in half, rip his face off. He's got about 2.2 seconds to decide whether he's going to, there's 4 or 5 receivers in the route. So there's a check down to McCaffrey. There's my number one route there. Inside leverage, outside leverage. You all have to be on the same page. Oh, okay, the corner's on an outside leverage. He's going to cut in. A lot of it depends on what you see, and that's how you're going to adjust your route. And Brock Purdy's got to be on the same page as every one of these guys running a route. So 4 or 5 guys in 2.1 seconds and decide where to throw the ball. And he's got to be telepathically on the same page as that player. And if he's not, he throws it outside and the guy cuts inside and it's a pick six and everybody looks at Brock and goes, "You idiot." Well, one of the reasons he did that is because they didn't have enough time together. And they, in the offseason, where Brock will do something, then he'll say to that player, "Hey, man, when this happens, I need you to do this, this, and this." The whole reason, and I'll play this in a second from Deebo. Not the whole reason. There's 2 or 3 reasons, which I'll explain when I play the Deebo cut here from John Lynch. But one of the reasons why the main reason I'll say that Deebo is not going to be a 49er moving forward is, there's a financial element to it, no doubt. But Deebo is not often enough in the right place, the place he's supposed to be at the right time. He's not a precise route runner. He's a guy that you have to scheme. So it's like a smoke, a quick thing, things like that where it's run after the catch. He's not always in the right spot. And so Brock Purdy, who has to be an anticipatory thrower anyway, is not sure that he can trust Deebo to be in the right place at the right time. Brandon Ayuk's a route runner. Pearsall's a route runner. JJ, you throw it to Juwan Jennings, he can just go up and get it because of his size. So that's a little bit different. But that all happens and starts in the offseason. And even though Brock Purdy's agent works for him, he will not allow Brock Purdy to even participate in throwing on the beach or on the grass or in San Diego or in Arizona or any of these places. He's like, you will not do it because your financial future is on the line. And if you out there and you rip your ankle or you hurt your Achilles or do anything like that, all this, what I'm talking about in terms of leverage. So John Lynch just said, I don't know if something's going to get done. He's starting to play the leverage game. You start saying less nice things about each other because you're in a negotiation. So if you sit there and you just praise and praise and praise, the agent hears that and is like, I saw how much you love Brock Purdy, man. We're going to up that number a little bit. Everybody's neutral now. Everybody's Switzerland, not saying nice things, not saying bad things, just they're in a negotiation. And you can tell part of that was John Lynch doing that. But they've got to get it done, and it matters when, because they've got to get out on the field and get that chemistry together so that when 300-pound men are trying to rip Brock Purdy's face off in 2.1 seconds, that he knows that whoever he's throwing the ball to sees what he sees because they worked on it in the offseason, and he can throw the ball before the players even turned around. That's why it needs to happen in the offseason. That's why he needs to get the contract done, because his agent will not allow him to set foot on any field until the deal's done. Because if he gets injured, then all cards are off the table and he loses millions of dollars. So it's got to get done. So that's the Brock thing. You probably knew a lot of that. I'm just reminding you. So let me go to Deebo. I know that's not on, I don't have these in the exact order, but let me go to Deebo just because of what I just told you about Deebo. So John Lynch did say yesterday that they would honor his request to be traded. Here's what John Lynch said yesterday from the combine.
For a fresh start, and I think we're going to honor that. Don't like seeing great players, and he is a great player. He's I think often one of my favorite draft picks in my time. This guy's just he makes plays and he makes game-changing plays, and everything's good, but I think at some point time happens, and
all right, so. Again, let's play this fun leverage game that I was just talking about. Why do you think John Lynch is saying all those nice things about Deebo Samuel? He's my favorite. By the way, he called him a draft prick. He didn't mean to, but he said he's my favorite draft prick. Do you want me to play that again? Did you not catch it? That's not a Freudian slip. He just said
a fresh start, and I think we're going to honor that. Don't like seeing great players, and he is a great player. He's I think often one of my favorite draft picks in my.
It sounded like draft prick to me. Anyway, he doesn't mean anything by that, and that wasn't a Freudian slip. He just slipped. Called him a draft pick. He's a draft pick. He said he was one of his favorite draft picks of all time, and he's talking him up. Well, why is he talking Deebo up but being neutral with Brock Purdy? Because they're going to keep Brock Purdy, and they're in a negotiation, and they want to up the value of Deebo Samuel. So he's saying really nice things. You see how this works? Deebo's great. I love Deebo. He's one of my favorite draft picks of all time. I love that guy. Oh, my God. I can't believe we're going to let him walk out the door. Well, you are letting him walk out the door. Why? If he was that great, why would you ever let him walk out the door? Well, because he asked. Well, if Nick Bosa asked, you're not trading him. If Trent Williams asked, you're not trading him. If Fred Warner asked, you're not trading him. Like, they're not in the business of trading guys they want to keep. They're in the business of leveraging so that they can get the most they can from Deebo Samuel. Now, in terms of Deebo and the market, here's what I find to be interesting. Hang on one sec. The way the market is starting to turn for Deebo Samuel, I'm not saying they're getting a first or a second or even a third. Devontae Adams went for a third from the Raiders to the Jets, and although he's getting older, he's an effective receiver. So I could see, say, a fifth rounder for Deebo, which could turn into maybe a fourth, maybe at the top, a third. But unlike Brandon Ayuk, and if Ayuk's deal happened this year instead of last year, he'd have been traded because all of a sudden, tons of teams need wide receivers. We heard D'Amico Ryan say yesterday nice things about Deebo and that he'd like to have him. What did I tell you? I wrote this piece 2 weeks ago or more on the blog, and I put up all the teams, and I put Houston as one of the teams I could see him going to. Why? Because of connections. We talk about all the time. Adam Peters with the Commanders was John Lynch's right-hand man when they drafted Deebo Samuel. You just look at connections, but there's a ton of teams who need a number 2 receiver and could afford Deebo's cap number at 15.2. And there's other teams that are so desperate, like New England, who never solved their wide receiver trouble after going after Brandon Ayuk last year, that they would even give Deebo an extension. So I think Deebo wants to win. But as we said, it's 100% about the money all the time. So a team like Pittsburgh who's desperate, or New England that's desperate, where he may not want to go, Cleveland that's desperate. If Cincinnati loses T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase is not playing nice with them because he wants a $40 million extension. I could go on down the line. I mentioned Houston is one of those teams. There's a boatload of teams. Dallas doesn't have anybody on offense next to CeeDee Lamb. Seattle's going to lose Tyler Lockett. I'm not saying they're going to trade him to those places, especially Seattle. The Rams need somebody. The Chargers and Jim Harbaugh are dying for receivers. Are dying for receivers. So there's a boatload of teams that need receivers all of a sudden. And even though Deebo is a greatly flawed player, a guy like Harbaugh, for example, would love a tone setter like Deebo Samuel if he were in shape. So even though the market looks like, well, geez, Deebo's not very good, and we all know that here, John Lynch is saying he's one of my favorite draft picks of all time. I mean, I love this guy. He's the greatest. Why are you letting him go? He's hyping him up because that's called leverage. So when you say those things, you just got to take into account. The reason I played those back-to-back was they want to keep Brock, but they got to be neutral because of the negotiation. They want to trade Deebo, and they're going to say nice things about Deebo because they want to keep leverage and they want to get back as much as they possibly can on him. So again, we're just kind of reading into the way that John Lynch is talking. So we've gone through, they're going to get younger. They want to, obviously the draft is huge. We went through Brock Purdy. We're to Deebo Samuel, explaining that. Who else is going to make sense in order here? Oh, here you go. This is great news, because although I wouldn't say that Christian McCaffrey cost them the season by himself, because there were so many weird things, Ayuk and Trent Williams and Devondre Campbell, and I mean, we just go on down the line with all the weirdness that happened. But if I had to make a list of why last year was a disaster, Christian McCaffrey getting hurt is number one on the list. So here is John Lynch with the latest update on Christian McCaffrey's health.
Christian's doing really well, and I think was real frustrated with the way last season went, and doing everything as possible as he did in preparation for last year. And we're hoping CMC's out there going to have a tremendous year. If he's healthy, he will have a tremendous year. That's just what he does.
Is the expectation that he'll be ready for the offseason program?
I think so. I think at least parts of it. We'll be judicious and follow, the medical folks' advice on that. But Christian's, he's done a great job doing the rehab. He's tireless.
By the way, before I hit up on this, this is pretty funny. D-Lo22 says, let's hope Mahomes is on the Madden cover. Yeah, look, whatever we said, and I know we broke this down both here and on the radio. Is there a curse? Is there not a curse? I don't care what anybody says. There's a curse. Because Christian McCaffrey, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but I used to know this by the number. But Christian McCaffrey, when they went to the Super Bowl last 2 years ago, or whatever it is, just over a year ago, he had over 2,000 all-purpose yards and 21 touchdowns. I think it was 14 receiving, 7 rushing. The guy was phenomenal. He was what Saquon Barkley was to the Eagles. This year, he had about 300 all-purpose yards, and 0.0 Blutarski, no touchdowns. So when you lose that kind of production, you're going to have a drop-off. So everybody complains, yells, screams, and a lot of it came down to the red zone, which Christian McCaffrey by himself is not going to solve, but it's certainly going to play a big role in it. So to me, number one of all the things we talk about, and it's not as sexy as Ayuk or Williams or weird stuff with Devondre Campbell or all the weird stuff that happened last year or Jake Moody, but Christian McCaffrey was reason number one, and it's not even close. Number two is not even close to why they had a drop-off. If Christian McCaffrey's healthy, and with this weird Achilles injury, I don't know, but John Lynch made it sound like he's healthy. So we'll find out. But he started his season, I think, November 10th against Tampa, and he fell in the snow in a non-contact injury on December 1st against the Bills. That was his season. And that was the number one reason why the 49ers were not good last year. So we've gone over Brock. We've gone over getting cheaper. We've gone over Deebo. We've gone over CMC. This is a great – let me preface what he says about Trent Williams here is Trent's going to be 37 in July. I think that Trent can play for a very long time, but he's at the point, too, where he won't play much in training camp. He doesn't do a lot of practicing during the week. He bowed out last year and had no problem with it while Kittle and Warner continued to play. He just was like, look, man, I'm 36 years old, and I'm just not going to get beat up for no reason, and I'm totally fine with that. But I also know this, that although I don't know that they're going to pick an offensive tackle at number 11 unless it's a guy like Will Campbell out of LSU, who seems to be the consensus best tackle. So if somebody like that drops, then they might do that. But it may be that they get one a little bit later, but they have got to find somebody, because every single year now, and it's absolutely a fair question to ask. Is Trent coming back? Is Trent coming back? Is Trent coming back? And if next year the answer is no, and you just signed Brock Purdy to a massive deal, who's protecting his blind side? I don't know. It's not going to be McKivitz. It's not going to be Jalen Moore. You don't trust those guys. And Moore's a free agent. McKivitz will be. Those guys aren't left tackles. Those guys aren't dancing bears like Trent Williams is, and very few people are. But they've got to, with all the things they need to address immediately, which is edge and defensive tackle and maybe free safety and all these different positions that we talk about. Some people would like to take a flyer on Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State. All the things that they need. I'm not going to say they're desperate, but there's an urgent need for a tackle who can come in and maybe play right tackle this year. Hell, maybe play guard, but then move over to left tackle eventually. There's a couple of guys with Ohio State that could do that kind of stuff. They've got to find somebody, because Trent's going to be 37, and the question every single year is, will Trent come back? Here's how John Lynch addressed that question.
Trent's playing, and he's ready. And, I think he's really motivated to come back. And, when you're that's rarefied air that Trent lives in, and when you're a player that has experience playing at those heights, you don't want to play unless you're playing at that level. And I think that's where Trent's at, and I think we're going to see a real motivated Trent Williams to come back and have a great year, and that's a good thing for us.
Okay. Sounds good. And I don't doubt for 1 second that Trent Williams is going to have a great year, but they have got to start looking at this thing. So whether it's in the first round and they're picking at 11, and then I just don't want to be picking at 11. And I'm not saying you can't get elite tackles, offensive tackles later on in the draft, but they don't expect to be here very often. And if one of them, and I don't know, I could be wrong. I'm not a big Banks fan, the kid out of Texas. I like Campbell, the kid out of LSU. And if he were to slip, then I think even though he would probably be a right tackle this year or whatever, and you move McKivitz into guard, who I think McKivitz is actually a better guard than he is a tackle, then you might be cooking with gas, because if Will Campbell is your right tackle and McKivitz is, say, can play left guard, or if Pooney moves over to left guard and somehow you get a center and then Trent Williams your left tackle, Trent leaves, Will Campbell's your left tackle, all of a sudden, and you have that continuity, like going from Joe Staley to Trent Williams, that just doesn't happen. That's like Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck. You're just getting lucky in that kind of a situation. It's just hard to find these guys And that's your blind side to your multi-million-dollar quarterback that you just would have paid. So they've got to figure something out. I don't love taking tackles. I don't love taking guards, those kind of stuff, but they're like socks and underwear at Christmas. You got to have them. You're not going to free ball it. So you got to put something on, and they're essential. And that's just what happens. They protect, underwear protects your boys. Well, left tackles protect your boy. I mean, that's how the things happen. That's not an exact perfect underwear is not expensive like left tackles are. But anyway, it's underwear and socks. And you got to have it. And we saw in the Super Bowl, trenches, that the Eagles dominated on the offensive line, and the Lions do, and the Rams do. And, so there's lots of, that's where the trends are going. We said it right after the Super Bowl. Trenches, we talked about it a lot on defense, but it's offense too. The 49ers want to run the football. And as currently constructed, they're not going to be able to do that. So run the ball. You got to get respect. All of a sudden, Brock is playing off play action that people believe is actually something they could get hurt at. So that's just kind of how it goes. So they got to do that. Let's see, what else do I have to play for you today? I got a ton of video. I'm just saying from the combine yesterday. So the Brock deal we did, Trent Williams, CMC we played, Get Cheaper But Better, Debo. I think we played all the sound. Let me do one more for you because this is important. Now, this could harken back to, and I've played this for you before, but this is George Kittle from Media Row in Nolans, and we've played this, but here's George because his deal is going to get extended. He has one more year left on his deal. He had a cap number of over $12 million last year, and this year it's over $22 million. All right, so he's not going to play on that number. That's when I tell you this all the time. You want to know when a contract ends because everyone's like, well, how long is it actually? What are the dummy years, and what's the guaranteed money? I think Brandon Ayuk, third year of his deal, it jumps to $44 million. The contract's over at that point. George Kittle's deal jumps to $22 million this year. It's over at that point. They're going to redo the deal. So here's George Kittle with Kay Adams, up in Adams, from the Super Bowl, talking about his contract, which the Niners are going to redo this offseason, I believe.
Want to clip this off and send it directly to John Lynch?
John Lynch, Jed York, Kyle Shanahan, send it to all of them.
Bueller, when is this happening? You're entering the last year of your contract.
I am.
I know you want to retire as a Niner, yes?
I'd love to.
What's happening? Pizza.
Pizza's happening, Kay. Waiting on them.
There's no talking yet?
No, I think there's been talking. I think, we're mildly on the same page.
What are we waiting for?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. I don't like that answer, but I'm not overly worried about it. George Kittle's going to be a 49er. He has proven his worth the whole time, but I've told you this just through years of covering the Niners. I know this. There was a belief in the building that when George Kittle, just because of the way he plays balls out 24/7, 365. He doesn't take the offseason off. He goes back to the barn in Nashville where he lives. He's got this cool setup, does tight end you. It's football. And they weren't sure that he was going to age gracefully. But now at the age of 30, almost 31 years old, I believe, he showed last year, and he's always getting banged up because of the way he plays, and that's why they were nervous. That's why they drafted a couple of years ago Cam Latu, terrible, third round out of Alabama, and Braylon Willis, who's still on the roster, but come on, not happening. So they're going to do the same thing this year. They need a tight end. This is a really deep tight end draft. I'm going to get to where Kyle Juszczyk is and another reason why they need one here in just a second. But they're going to get George Kittle's deal done. And the quote yesterday was, and it came from Nick Wagner. In fact, I thought I had that thing up, but maybe I don't. Yeah, I do. It's over here. I've got it on my other media stuff. See, I'm doing all this stuff. Let's see. Nick Wagner. Don't see it. No big deal. Essentially, he said that, John, and this was off to the side, which is why we don't have video of it. But John Lynch essentially said, we're going to get a deal done. We got to work on a deal. So they're getting a deal done. And because George, what he's proven is, while he plays hard and all these things, he could have tapped out last year. George Kittle doesn't need to be playing as hard as he plays in a 6-11 football season when they had dancing dreams of the Super Bowl in their head and it just didn't work out. But he wanted to prove to everybody, I'm not going to just tap out in a season that is this tough. And he became better and better and better every week. He was the best tight end in the league, not even close. I know that Brock Bowers had more catches and all those different things, but nobody blocks and nobody's the combination of George, maybe in the history of the game. And I don't want to be too far on it, but he's really good. And the organization loves having him around. He's a tremendous leader. He's relentlessly positive, as you can see in that clip. So George Kittle's going to be around here a long time, and that deal is going to get done. So there's that one. And then the last one, and I think I do have this quote, and this is from, is this the right one? Yeah. This is Tracy Sandler, who does a great job, and Tracy's going to join us next week. She's at the Combine, Indianapolis, and she's one of a number of people that cover the 49ers, and she does an amazing job. So she's going to join us next week here and on the show and talk to us about her experiences in Indy. And she was also at the Super Bowl in New Orleans. But this is what the quote, again, this was John Lynch off to the side, so there weren't the cameras around. This is what he said about Jake Moody. The team still has a lot of belief in Jake Moody and feels the injury was a large part of the struggles. They've had very honest discussions with Jake. What's going to happen here is that they're going to bring in competition, not just a camp leg like they've done in the past, like Zane Gonzalez was last year, real competition to Jake Moody. And because what that's going to do is it's not a physical issue with this kid. And I know I've made fun about taking him in the third round and all this kind of stuff, but they got to get this fixed. You're a football team that thinks you're a Super Bowl contender. Your kicker's got to be able to make kicks on a consistent basis. That's just the way it is. So, yeah, you had a high ankle sprain making a tackle last year, and you can use that as an excuse. There's excuses and explanations. You and I talk about it all the time. Jake Moody is an excuse. He had a mental block last year. He was missing kicks, and he's going to come into camp this year with real competition. So is he going to respond like some people do as athletes and say, I'm going to rise above it, and this is going to motivate me to be better? Or is he going to miss a kick in a preseason game? Niner fans are going to start booing down on him, even in a preseason game. He's going to lose his confidence that he probably has built up with some sort of sports psychologist in the offseason, and he's going to go into a shell, and he's never going to be able to kick, at least for the 49ers again. And that's why I don't like taking kickers in the third round, because a lot of times it just takes them a minute, a trip around the league a few times, then they find their footing, but it's with another team, and you spend a third-round pick. So physically, Jake's a really good kicker. He can kick it through the end zone. In the Super Bowl, he kicked a couple of 50-yarders. The guy has range. That's why Robbie Gould wasn't around, because at 53 and in, he was money. But he couldn't go over that, and the Niners thought, A, he's making too much money. We need to reset at the position. But B, here's this guy who's got these great physical traits. But with kicking, it's more mental than physical. It's just the way it is. And Jake lost it mentally, didn't believe he was going to make those kicks. It's an offseason where he's going to get that help that he needs. But then it comes to training camp, and I don't care how many drills in practice. Papa used to tell me that all the time. Jake in practice, Jake in practice, Jake in practice. I don't care about practice. I care about the games. And when you don't have confidence, you would sit there with Jake Moody and be like, I don't know. Misses a 34-yarder, makes a 55-yarder. I don't know. It drives Kyle Shanahan through the roof. And here's the other side of it. Brant Boyer is their new special teams coach who was with the Jets. And he survived like 3 or 4 different coaching changes. The guy's a scrapper. He's got an attitude like Saleh. He's not putting up with it. And the thing is, he didn't spend a third-round pick on Jake Moody. He just wants the best kicker for the Niners. He doesn't have any residuals. He goes into this thing just looking at who's the best kicker for my special team so I don't get fired. Brian Schneider, there's a lot of problems with the 49ers special teams, giving up big plays, fake punts, game-altering plays. That's what happened to the special teams. But it sure as hell didn't help that Jake Moody couldn't make a kick at times and was vastly and wildly inconsistent. So, look, you don't want him back. I don't want him back. I get it. But they did spend a third-round pick, and so they're going to try to rehab this guy. But I don't have a whole lot of confidence in him. I think you need to bring in a veteran kicker that can consistently make kicks that you can rely on. And I don't think that Jake Moody's going to be able to get over his mental block. I could be wrong. I'm not in Jake Moody's head, but a lot of things are in Jake Moody's head, and that's why he struggled. So I think I hit everything from the combine. I know that was a long time, and we're 53 minutes into the show in episode 72. But we went Kittle, Brock, Trent Williams, CMC, Get Cheaper, Debo. Yeah, we did all of it. We hit everything from the combine. So again, if you're just joining us, here's what's cool about the show. John Lund Unleashed. And maybe you're watching on X or Instagram or Facebook or multiple YouTube channels. Twitch, welcome. Appreciate you there. Come into the chat room and hang out. But here's what's really cool about the YouTube channel and why you should subscribe. One of the reasons, one of the many that you should subscribe, which is I'll put a chapter together right when we get off. We hit the button that goes to the podcast. So you've got Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And then we hit another button, and it puts chapters right underneath this. So if you're watching this live, it's not that yet. You click on it, and you can see all the information I put down there, websites, all that stuff. But later on in the right after we get off the air, maybe within a half hour, we'll put chapters. So if you want to talk about something else, or if you want to come back to any of the thing of the Lynch speaking, it will break the chapters down. You just click on those things later, and you can go specifically to whatever that you want to talk about. The AI just says, okay, he's talking about Deebo now. He's talking about this now, and it'll break it all down. And you click on that number that, at what point we talked about it. and you can go straight to whatever you want because we go all over the place. But we are staying pretty good today. Episode 72, Lynch speaks, Purdy, etc. That's where we are. Let me take a quick, not a break, but let me just see what people are saying in the comment line before I get to Insider Fight. You don't want to miss Insider Fight. Yeah, that's exactly what happened, Steve. David Lombardi had a better coverage, as it seems there was an hour Q&A with John with the cameras off. So what they do there, I've covered the combine before, the Underwear Olympics, and what they do is they have players up there. They have press conferences going on all the time, but players, coaches, GMs, all that kind of stuff, and they're kind of all over the place. And so what they do is they'll put John or said player or said coach on the podium at specific times, and then you get that kind of a thing, a group setting. And then what will happen is, not with players so much, but with a coach or with a GM, then they'll go off to the side. And a lot of times that's just like beat writers that are there all the time. So the Niners beat writers like the Matt Mayoko, Matt Barrows, Cam Inman, Nick Wagner, Tracy Sandler, who else? Just, that group, you get what I'm saying. So all those people will get in a group, and then with cameras off, he'll give you some candid answers on certain things. And that's what the Kittle thing was. That's what the Jake Moody thing was. So that's why we don't have video. But thank you to David Lombardi. He provided that video, and at Lombardi himself on social media. And please make sure that you're following David because he does an amazing job covering the 49ers. So that's what he did. So there you go. Oh, Papa J, thank you. Oh, See, I'm always one behind because everything's going fast. I got to click this thing, like and subscribe. Please do. I would really appreciate that. So anyway, David does a really good job, and that's where the video comes from that. All right, let's do this. Thank you for joining. Again, John Lund Unleashed. We're here 8 a.m. to whenever it happens to be off the air, 8 a.m. Pacific. We are 56 minutes into the show. We appreciate you hanging out, whatever platform you're watching on. As I said, Facebook, 2 YouTube channels, Twitch, X, Instagram, and I'd love for you to subscribe on YouTube, but that is completely up to you. And we've got the podcast rolling, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Here's the Lynch thing. God, what am I, an idiot? There's Nick. George Kittle wrote some talks, blah, 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 wants to retire as a Niner. Issues will be timing, other big business to handle. That's something we all want to see become a reality. So that was off to the side. What is this? Oh, I already played that. I already showed that. Okay, Insider Fight. We got to talk about this. So apparently, this is over a story in which, and this is what cracks me up. I told you this about a week ago or something. Somebody was attacking me, which is fine. I don't care. On what are they talking to me about? I don't know. It was some sort of thing about tampering, and I told you this. Tampering happens 24/7, 365 in every single sport, whether it come from a player, a GM, a text to a agent. Everybody know, like, it's not like it's the clock strikes midnight and they start negotiating with people. I mean, they know who's going to be free. They know who's going to talk to them. They know who. This all has to be done. You have to do groundwork to get these kind of things done. So when free agency starts in football and a guy signs 1 minute into free agency, what did you think that it's just the greatest negotiators of all time? Like Javon Hargrave signed like 5 minutes into free agency. You think the Niners didn't talk to him? You think they didn't do a lot of heavy petting? You didn't think that they talked to the agent and said, hey, you didn't think right after that game, the NFC Championship game, where he helped dominate and beat the Niners? I know Brock was out, but he was awesome. That they didn't call his agent right after the game on the plane flying home. Now, hey, I know your guy's going to be free. Would he ever consider it? Like they do it all the time, okay? So what happened was there was a story that Jordan Schultz broke. He's Fox, I think, and he said that Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady were skiing together up in Montana, where Brady has an off-season place, and they didn't happen to run into each other, just like Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford didn't just happen to run into each other in Cabo, which precipitated him signing with the Rams. This stuff happens all the time. So anyway, and then Ian Rappaport countered that report, another insider, of course, from NFL.com, NFL media, and said, nah, it was just a chance thing. There's not a chance thing. That doesn't happen. So it wasn't. So Schultz basically got pissed off and said, we need to talk. Rappaport was apparently on the phone. So this is the inside of it. So there's pro football talk. Jordan Schultz of Fox verbally accosted Ian Rappaport of NFL media at an Indianapolis Starbucks on Wednesday afternoon. Report was made to NFL security by Rappaport, which is investigating. By the way, you can't do that, bro. Come on, man. That's not very street of you to then run to the NFL security. Because they didn't fight physically. He just F-bombed him a few times. So then this is the report. The situation between Rappaport and Schultz got heated after they went back and forth regarding Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady report. We're told Rappaport was talking to an agent. Schultz approached Rappaport and said, we need to talk. Rappaport said, we don't need to talk. Schultz then made accusations against Rappaport face-to-face. If you have any, this is what apparently Schultz said, if you have anything to say to me, say it to my effing face. If this continues, we're going to have an effing problem. Ian then asked Schultz to step back. If this happens again, we're going to have an effing problem. Rappaport then called, come on, bro, we can't do this. Rappaport then called NFL security, who is investigating. So they're at a Starbucks and they're screaming at each other over the Stafford Brady story. Schultz saying that Brady and Stafford did meet on purpose and went skiing, and Rappaport's downplaying it, saying, it's not that big of a deal, which pisses off an insider. I don't know if there's an insider code that you're supposed to back somebody up, but then Rappaport probably found from another source, it's not that big of a deal. And to me, this is, again, the media being used because Brady's side doesn't want to be accused of tampering and fined. And Mark Davis would have to pay the fine and, those kind of things. So they don't want that. So Ian Rappaport's doing somebody a solid within the Raiders organization and probably Brady himself. You want information from us? I told you about this with Diana Rossini, the Rams saying that, we're fine with Jimmy Garoppolo as our quarterback. Tell that, make sure that gets out there so the Stafford camp, we get some leverage. Stafford camp just laughs their ass off. Like, come on, you're not fine with Jimmy. Stop it. They're not buying that report. So she gets used so she can get information from the Rams later. And Ian Rappaport just got used by the Raiders, it sounds like to me, because he's downplaying it that all of a sudden Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady are at the same ski resort in Montana. Oh, my God, it's Matthew Stafford. Oh, my God. What are the chances? Like, of course they were there at the same time, but Ian Rappaport's doing somebody within the Raiders organization a solid, saving him some money probably on a tampering charge. Therefore, the Raiders later on, they got the 6th pick in the draft, might want to know what's going on here. The free agency, they're flush with money. Raiders are going to be a major player in the offseason. Ian Rappaport's doing them a solid. Hey, man, I remember that time I said that you guys just ran into each other on the mountain in Montana. Saved you a bunch of money, man. You owe me a couple. What do you got? Give me some insight. Give me who you drafting, who you looking at in free agency, and then he's able to report that. That's the game. So one guy's trying to help the Raiders. Another guy's saying, don't diss my report. They get to fight at a Starbucks. Woohoo! Man, stuff is crazy. Can't make it up. Why do you think the NFL offseason's great? Because insiders are fighting at a Starbucks in Indianapolis. And I can tell you, with firsthand experience of covering many Super Bowls and combines and that stuff, so much happens at a Starbucks. I'm not even kidding you. Boatloads of things. You can sit at the Starbucks. Like last year in Vegas, that's what I do. There was a Starbucks adjacent to where you had to go into security to get into Media Row, and anybody was there. Or in Arizona, there was this breakfast spot that was across the street to like the right, next to my hotel to the right, and right across the street was Media Row. I went to that friggin' breakfast joint. It wasn't anything special, but I went there to eat at the bar. It wasn't a bar. I wasn't getting drunk. At the breakfast bar every single morning because tons of people would walk in there, tons of insiders. They're all meeting, and I'm like, who's that guy meeting with? Like, I'm trying to get intel because, there's just certain spots, and so the Starbucks is a perfect spot at a certain time. You can sit there for an hour and see every insider, everybody, every media personality because, Starbucks is crack, even though Starbucks isn't really my bag. I'm not a big Starbucks guy, but that's what happens. So there was a fight there. Unbelievable. One guy trying to protect the Raiders, the other guy going like, bro, come on, man, you can diss in my report. So anyway, there's the NFL insider fight. Speaking of insiders, here's another nice piece of video I got for you. So again, one of the reasons to watch the show, and I think we're learning this together, is that I have insider stuff and I have instincts. I'm no insider. I misspoke. What I'm saying is I have a lot of I have some contacts in the league, but it's also just using your brain, years of reporter instincts. And so I wrote about this days ago on the blog. And if you go to the blog at johnlundunleashed.com, I've got the latest, which is what John Lynch said. So if you want to revisit all the John Lynch stuff, I have all the video up there, and I wrote a piece on it as well. But, I don't know, a few days ago, I wrote this piece about it makes a hell of a lot of sense for Stafford to go to the Raiders, gets everything he wants. I explained it. I explained it at johnlundunleashed.com. And therefore, Sam Darnold, who went to SC and is from Southern California, played for Kevin O'Connell, who coached under Sean McVay, would make a lot of sense for the Rams going that direction. Darnold's 27. The Rams have a young team. They can grow together. All of this makes a ton of sense. Pete Carroll's 73, doesn't want a rookie young quarterback. Matthew Stafford comes in there. Stafford wants money. no state income tax in Nevada, blah, 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 blah. So it makes a ton of sense for everybody. So then I say that a few days ago, and then here's Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee show this morning, basically stealing my stuff.
They haven't said anything, and we'll see how
what they say. We want to spend more money.
Just talked about how much confidence they have in J.J. McCarthy, and J.J.'s a great guy, and I think he's got a really bright future, and he's got a chance to be a really good quarterback. And they invested the high pick in him, and I think they absolutely believe in him. And because of all those factors and the way that it finished at the end of the season for Sam, I think that they have an interest in Sam. But what is the number that it's going to be for Sam? And is there another team out there that is willing to pay Sam more? And so now we're back to Matthew Stafford, because is Matthew Stafford staying in L.A.? If he's staying in L.A., well, then the Raiders didn't get him. And if the Raiders didn't get him, I think the Raiders would have an interest in Sam Darnold. But what if the Raiders get Matthew Stafford? Then what happens to Sam Darnold? Then there's one less option. So you could see where the tentacles of the Stafford situation reach out and impact guys like Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers.
So Kevin
All right, so there it is. Aaron Rodgers is not going to the Rams. I told you that, because the ego of Sean McVay is massive, and those two can't work together. And I've told you this before, too, in regards to Kyle Shanahan, because those thinking that maybe Aaron Rodgers would provide some sort of leverage to the 49ers, Kyle wants his offense run a certain way. Look at the quarterbacks who Kyle Shanahan have had in his career, and where he's had trouble with certain quarterbacks in his career. He wants a quarterback who's going to run his offense. That's what Brock Purdy will do. Run my offense. I'm the brains behind it. If you execute it, it's going to work. Anytime he's had an egotistical quarterback say, I got this. Matt Ryan was not an egotistical quarterback. He ran Kyle's system. Jimmy Garoppolo at times said, I think I know. And Kyle Shanahan's like, no. And they had a problem that way. So, yeah, Jimmy was injured, and yeah, these things, and didn't hit the throw to Sanders in the Super Bowl and all those certain things. But Kyle doesn't like to be questioned, and there was maybe a little bit too much of that going on. They didn't sometimes see eye to eye. I shouldn't say often, sometimes. And then he didn't respond well, Jimmy, on text and everything, and wasn't really available at times in the offseason. So for those reasons, he wasn't that. And then the other time was RG3, and he kind of like, I got this, Kyle. And it's like, no. They didn't get along well. There's no way that he's bringing in Aaron Rodgers here for leverage. And there's no way, I don't think, that Sean McVay is bringing in Aaron Rodgers. I don't know their situation as closely as I do the 49ers, but those two, and McVay's got a bigger ego than Kyle. They're both big, but he's got a bigger ego than Kyle. And Aaron Rodgers would come in and say, I got this. I've done this. I got this. And that's not going to work. So I said that it makes a lot of sense if this is not a bluff, and it might be. But if it's not a bluff, Stafford to the Raiders and Darnold to the Rams makes a ton of sense. And I'm glad that Adam Schefter's finally onto that. Just kidding. All right. Another NFL thing, and let me double check. I always like to get out to the chat line to make sure that people are behaving themselves. I'll get to Abdul Carter's drop. That's where we are on the chalkboard. Abdul Carter drop is where we are, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like sixth story, which I think is really interesting. It has something to do with the 49ers. So hang on, don't go anywhere. I got something really interesting in that. Let me see here. Anybody talking about anything I need to talk about? I could go on a random here, as you well know, if there's anything that piques my interest, in sports or otherwise. Just double check that we're okay. I think we're good. And again, you can always hit me up on a super, and I'll make sure that I read your stuff, but I don't see anything that I need to hit exactly at this moment, even though I appreciate everybody being in the chat room. All right, let's get to this Abdul Carter story, because it's really, really interesting. And last night I was really going, ooh. So this guy is an edge rusher out of Penn State. A lot of people, just because it's Penn State, I'm sure, are saying he could be Micah Parsons. The guy's good. And a lot of the NFL insiders, from Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, a lot of these guys have him as the best player in the draft. Super fast. If you watched any of the Penn State, he wore the special number 11 that they only give to special players. LeVar Arrington wore it there. Obviously, Micah Parsons wore it there. So it doesn't mean he's going to be those guys, but he's really, really good. And a lot of people think that, quarterbacks get pushed up the draft. So probably a quarterback's going 1, but Abdul Carter is going to go in the top 3 selections, and somebody's going to be really happy that they got him. And so he says he wasn't going to work out at the combine, by the way. I'm the best player in the country, and the best player should be drafted number 1. Well, there's the quarterback position, but you get the point. And then yesterday it comes out that he's got a foot injury. So he had a shoulder injury, which is why he's saying he wasn't going to work out. But he has a foot injury now and his agent is Drew Rosenhaus. So do they put a screw in this thing? Do they need to have surgery? Is he's going to drop in the draft because of it? So then it comes out this morning by Shefty. Doctors told Penn State defensive end Abdul Carter, after further scans on the right foot, surgery not advisable, going to work out at his pro day March 28th at Penn State. Quote, I couldn't be more confident that this will be a non-factor where he's drafted. You love this. Again, more leverage stuff. Carter's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, said today he will put on a show at his pro day. I'd love him to put on a show at the combine. I don't know why he wouldn't, because he says he's the best player in the draft. It drives me crazy that guys aren't going to do that. And I'll go back to Carter in a second, but same thing. A guy that was just projected to the Niners at 11. Will Johnson will not work out at the combine, blah, 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 pro day. Yeah. The NFL's got to fix that, man, because you want to see them apples to apples. You want to see them on the same field, and it's already 50-50, as I tell you, on the first round, and now guys are just left and right. Just the top guys just won't work out. And it makes it more difficult to evaluate guys because you're evaluating at their pro day. What are they doing at their pro day? It's a perfect scenario. The track is a little bit faster. They do all these different things at these pro days, at these colleges, so that their guys can look better. They've got a vested interest in these guys getting drafted higher, making more money. So it's the field is tilted. Where at Indianapolis, it's just like, can I see apples to apples? Can I see guys throw? Can I see guys run? Can I see guys lift against other guys? Can guys compete? I mean, you just said, Abdul Carter, you're the best. Then compete and show it. But they just won't do it anymore. All right, so back to Abdul Carter. I said this at the beginning of the draft. So every year it seems there's a guy in this range that drops, like in this 11 range where they are. So Micah Parsons went 12th. Warren Sapp back in the day went in that range, was supposed to go higher. Laramie Tunsil, the weed thing. There's they'd seen Jalen Carter a couple of years ago, went 10th to the Eagles when he should have been a top 2 or 3 pick. Whether it's off the field, whether it's injuries, whether it's a last second thing, like in Tunsil's case, whatever the case may be, just people, I don't know if it's over evaluated. Patrick Mahomes went 10th, it's over evaluation or whatever the case may be. But it's like all of a sudden a guy that's projected to be in the top 3, top 5 starts sliding. And people are like, what the heck's going on? And so there might be something behind the scenes. The NFL has the security guys, and they dig into your background. I would never want them to do that. It's like digging into the past of the president. I mean, they really go deep on these guys. So because you're spending millions of dollars in guaranteed money, and they want to make sure that, at least from this standpoint, they won't work out. They won't show you everything, even though they're supposed to be these major competitors and say they're the best. So they can't do anything about that apparently right now, but they can dig into their past, and they can talk to a bunch of people, coaches at every level, and families and people that know them and cousins and all this kind of stuff. They're trying to dig and find the worst thing out about these guys. That's what they do. That's what NFL security does. They're looking for anything on these guys. And all of a sudden, the day before the draft, somebody gets nervous on one of these players, and all of a sudden they're slipping. And so could an injury allow Abdul Carter to slip anywhere near the 49ers? Because even if he doesn't make it to 11, like he gets to the 7 or 8, 9 range, people are going to be calling. So the Jets are at 7. New Orleans is at 9. All of a sudden you're like, whoa, Abdul Carter's slipping. It's got to be this injury thing. And so you're the Niners, you can go up and get him. Well, I mean, I would. I mean, that's how big of a talent he is. Drew Rosenhaus, as we always talk about the games that are being played in this whole different thing, the game within the game, is like, whoa. I couldn't be more confident this will be a non-factor where he's drafted, because he knows what's happening. First thing is guys like me going, whoa. Is he going to slip into that range? Is he going to slip? And every pick he slips is money out of Rosenhaus's pocket, money out of Abdul Carter's pocket, but he's not going to go 1 because I think Cam Ward is. But, anytime from 2 to where the Niners pick at 11, or Jalen Carter, who should have been, a top 2 or 3 pick, but ends up at 10, they lose money. And this for every single time, they're not picked. And Drew Rosenhaus is seeing his money go, so he's going to come out and say, oh, whoa, this is, it's not going to affect his draft status. Well, we'll see, because the doc's for every team now, as part of the process of them talking to him. And this is, again, why I think Kyle should be in Indianapolis, is they're going to talk to this kid, and they're going to look over the medicals with a fine-tooth comb now, even more than they normally would, and say, well, tell us about the foot. What's going on? How does it feel? It's going to be a concern, and some teams will drop them. That's just how they are. There's certain teams who don't have the stomach as much as other teams do for injuries. Now, when Trent Baalke was running things, that's even a better reason to draft him higher. He was like ACL, double ACL. Who cares? We're going to draft you higher. So, your ability to stomach injuries is going to tell you on those kind of things. But could Carter, and I see people already talking about this, could Carter drop to the Niners at 11? I doubt it. But if this were to be a factor and then he got into the range of the Niners and you badly need an edge guy across from Bosa, and I get it, you don't want to give up picks, but remember, John Lynch said something from the podium yesterday that's really important on his thing about how they need to, start balancing the books here a little bit better. They've got 10 picks and they can move up and down, and there aren't 10 open spots on this roster. And Lynch knows it. And now you know it. And you knew it before. But there aren't 10 open spots in this roster. So you consolidate some of those because you see a guy that's dropping, and they'll do that throughout the draft. The Niners will move up at some point. Not saying it's in the first round, but they're going to fall in love with somebody and go, man, that guy's dropping. We're going to go get him. We got 10 picks. We don't need 10 picks. Now, does that happen with Abdul Carter? Maybe it does, because that guy across from Nick Bosa, for all the other needs you have, which is defensive tackle, maybe linebacker, maybe tight end, definitely offensive line, like all those things happen. But if you see a guy who's number one on your board with a bullet and he's all of a sudden sitting there at 8 or 9 and you're the Niners and you have 10 draft picks, you're going. Now, can you get him? Other teams are going to be aggressive too. But even if it has Carter going from 2 or 3 to 7, 8, 9, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that guy's slipping. We're going to go get him. And he's going to be a Jalen Carter. He's going to be a Warren Sapp. He's going to be, and I don't mean that in a sense of how he plays. I mean that in the sense of those guys dropped. And whether it was injuries, off the field issues, whatever the case may be, we're not going to know that no matter what Drew Rosenhaus says, his agent. He's not dropping in the draft. Well, it's not your choice to make. It's every team's doctors now who are going to fine-tooth comb that, drill down on Abdul Carter. And the Niners all of a sudden are going, hey, that was a guy that we didn't think we could get. We need to drill down on that too, because if he's sitting there at 8, hell, if he's sitting there at 11, no brainer. But if he's sitting there at 7 or 8, and we got 10 picks and we can move one and possibly get up and get that guy, then we need to do our due diligence on him. So that changes a lot of things no matter what Drew Rosenhaus says, no matter what Adam Schefter says, whatever. All of a sudden you're like, he might be in our range. It's not likely, but he might be in our range, so let's start doing some work. And then you start seeing this too, and it just happens. You don't think these teams do this? Hey, man, that foot's really bad. Our doctor says that foot's really bad. Hey, Diana Rossini, we say our doctor says it's really bad. And that's what you start doing. You start planting stuff. It's espionage. You start planting stuff. You want Abdul Carter. Like, if Abdul Carter you're hearing is going to drop to 6 or 7 because of this, and you're a team right after that, you're saying to yourself, let's get the word out. Our doctor says the foot's bad. And then they'll oblige because they want the money, or they want the scoops later on. So there's Ian Rappaport. I talked to a team executive with a team that's, with an NFL team, and they say their docs say that Abdul Carter's situation is very, very iffy, and they're nervous. They might even take him off the board. Just something outrageous like that. And then all of a sudden, other teams like, whoa, that Team X, Ian Rappaport just said Team X is taking him off the board. Oh my God, this might be bad. And then the owner's freaking out. Well, I'm not giving that guy guaranteed money. That's how it happens. And then you sit at 11 and you laugh because you planted the story and you get Abdul Carter. I know you think this stuff's crazy, but that's how it happens. That's how it works. Carter's going to drop to 6 or 7. Let's get him to drop to 11. Let's get him to drop to us. Let's say that our anonymous source says that their doctor of their NFL team says that thing's bad and he needs surgery, and they're going to have to put a screw in that thing. And he not playing. He might not play his rookie year. All of a sudden, it's like, dude. And Drew Rosenhaus is calling to these teams going, no, that's not how it is. Our medicals say this. Well, you got a vested interest. He drops, you make less money. That's how the fun happens, people. That's why this stuff is great. That's why it's all this drama. My wife just laughs at me. It's stupid. Why do you look at this stuff? Why do you talk about this stuff? Because it's high drama, man. It's espionage. This is like reality TV. So, Abdul Carter, that's the story there. Combine starts. You have to play this every single year at the Combine because you just don't know anything. And if you watch this, and this is, I think, the 33rd team put this video together, 33rd team. And this is Tom Brady's Combine day. And we know, he gets onto the stage or the scale, looks terrible, all this kind of stuff. But does this, and this is why they make mistakes, because they look at this and they say every year, well, we're not going to make this mistake. We're not going to overvalue a guy's physical side of things. And I said this on Krug Show last night. The reason why mistakes are made in the NFL draft at this point, they've got all their evaluations and they've looked at all the film, and nobody's going to throw another pass. Nobody's going to catch another pass. Nobody's going to block. No other plays are going to be made on tape. They're just going to go see these guys, and they're going to jump, and they're going to run, and they're going to shuttle, and they're going to do all these things, and they're going to do the gauntlet, and they're going to freak out. And they're going to change guys where they should be on their draft board based on the physical side. When these guys finish up, They don't even finish up school. They go to either Arizona or Florida or somewhere in California, and they have these academies with these top players. Not even the top players, all the players, most of them. And the agent takes them to these places, and that's where they work out, and that's where they live, and that's where they eat, and they get the best shape of their life, and they lose 20 pounds so they can run faster, and then they'll gain it back after the draft. But it's the fastest they're going to run. It's the best shape they're going to be in. They're going to be a well-oiled machine, and they know the answers to the test. They know the shuttle. They know the 40. They know the bench press. They know the 3 cone. They know all this stuff. They have the answers to the test, and they've been working on them for months. And then they do them at the combine, and all these guys freak out and say, oh, my God, he did this and this and this and this and this. And a lot of times it's not even related to football. It's not even related to football. But they know the answers to the test. They've been working on it for 3 months. They ace said test, and then they move them in their position of how they would actually draft them. When a lot of that stuff's not even football, man. And so they make a mistake. And the reason they do is because they see the guy at the combine. He's an edge rusher at 6'5", 265. He runs a 4.4, and he shuttles and he benches 35 times. And then what he says, that general manager, is, I can't pass up on that guy. And and if he does bomb, then I can tell my owner he had all the physical traits. He had everything. He had, it was good tape, not great tape. But, there's certain guys in this draft, like every draft, and they look like Superman in shorts. And then they get on a football field and they don't have the production. And then you scratch your head and go, why did they screw it up? Because you overvalued the combine. Because you overvalued running around in shorts, the underwear Olympics, the Mike Mamula Olympics. You screwed that up. You got to use it as part of the evaluation. And these evaluators say that they will, and then they fall in love with guys. They just can't help it. It's why Brock Purdy goes 262. It's why they screw up quarterback evaluations. It's why they screw up all these evaluations. And that's why I think Kyle should be there, because you want to talk to these guys and find out what's in their heart and what's in their chest. Look at Fred Warner and George Kittle and Diamonor Lenore and all these guys. These guys love football. And you talk to them and you say, okay. Like Warner was a safety that got projected. I watched Warner a lot in college. He was a safety. He was kind of like a rover type or a star position safety. And then he came in and who could project him to linebacker like that? But if you had talked to the guy and seen what he was all about, then you'd know, like, this guy's a dog. George Kittle was a dog. He had Kleenex in his nose at the combine. By the way, did I ever play the Brady stuff? I was yapping. Here you go. I mean, does that look like the greatest quarterback of all time? Of course it doesn't. That's why he was drafted at 199. It's just funny. Third team had that video and added the music and all that kind of stuff. But I like to play that every single year because it's, the combine, and everybody's looking at Brady like, please. Or like I went back, I know I'm dorky, and looked at Brock Purdy, and it's like, he was kind of like that. He didn't jump off the page at anybody. So the interviews to me are so important, and finding out, like, if teams had taken Brady seriously and really talked to him and gone deep into his brain and found out what he was all about. We know that now, but why didn't teams do more of that? Because they watched him physically and said, well, he can't do it. I mean, he's 6'4", 210, whatever, lanky. Looked like he was wearing, like, I don't know what those shorts were back in the day, and he loose shirt and all that kind of stuff. Nowadays, it's like everything is contoured so they know. But I mean, he's wearing, like, I don't know, knees, like those are like, I don't know what those shorts were. They must look like golf shorts, or they're like down to his knees or something like that. But you're looking at it and it's like, well, that can't be the greatest quarterback of all time. Well, take him into an interview room and talk to him. Put him on the chalkboard. Like, you could find a lot out, and Kyle's not there. And so it's, how do you find out everything you can about Tom Brady? Because you're not going to see it on a football field. I don't care what kind of 3-cone he runs. It's nothing like that. It's looking at this guy going, damn, look at this guy. This guy knows all. This guy's smart. This guy's bright. And they just didn't do it enough. They didn't go deep enough into Tom Brady's brain and head and heart and chest to say, this guy loves it and he's going to grind. That's always how he's been. I mean, that's he would impress you if you would just not look at the film, but guys are going to fall in love with this stuff over the weekend. And I am too. And I'm going to look at 40-yard dashes and bench presses and 3 cones and all this crap that a lot of it doesn't matter. You can either play or you can't. And you looked at all the film and you know who can, but someone's just going to fall in love with someone. First round, as I told you, is 50-50 on these first-round picks, and then it just goes down from there because they look too much at this weekend. And I'm guilty of it. It's not like I'm a scout or something, but I'm absolutely guilty of it. So there is combine starts. That's where we are. So we've gone through episode 72, Lynch speaks, Purdy, etc., NFL Insider fight. I was right on Darnold and Stafford, at least from a standpoint of Adam Schefter is now talking about it. He stole it straight from the show. Abdul Carter, could he drop? combine starts. That's where we're going. So NFL wise, I think, unless I have any other video that I have not played, because I just played a ton of John Lynch for you. Played Kittle from that last. Okay. I'm fine as far as the NFL is concerned. So we're going to flip to Jordan Hicks, Warriors at Orlando on this day. Double bang, which you're going to love. Best dunk of the season, I think. Random stuff we haven't done nearly enough of, and Gene Hackman passed away. So we have a lot to do, but I'm going to shift away from football. And if, again, you missed a lot of the stuff we talked about, you can always go back and you can find it. But if you specifically want to go through any of it, and we went through all of John Lynch speaking yesterday, all you have to do is wait for like 30 minutes after the show. I'll try to do it quicker. But then I put up the chapters, and you can click right on the chapters and get specifically everything that you want. So we do that as there you go. Don't even remind us. Don't even remind us about Carmazzi. Don't even. But you just did, and I put it up on the board. So that's my fault. Let's see. Where is? Oh, you just a little bird song there. Hang on. I was just looking for something right there. Yeah, Tom Brady looks like the epitome of what a newborn baby giraffe looks like. Angel Reese. Yeah, Angel Reese around the rim. Oh my God, terrible. All right, let's see here. What else? Hi, John Holmes. Good to see you. Secondary reason guys in schools like having pro days is to give the under-the-radar players visibility. Yeah, there's no doubt. Look, there's a good reason for it. I'm fine with it, and I understand how the system works. But I think the league has got to do something with these agents and say, look, guys, we're putting millions of dollars into your guys. I realize it. But if your guy's not going to work out, then you got something to hide. What do you got to hide? Like, the whole point of the combine was to get everybody together on a level playing field, apples to apples, and see what guys can do. Let's see you throw. Let's see you run. Let's see you lift. Let's see you three-cone. Let's see you do all these things. Like, let's just see it on a level playing field, not tilted to the way that you're going to put it together on your home field. No, come to our home turf, and our track's a little faster, and this and that, and all of our guys around, and the receivers that he throws to. I don't want to see the receivers he throws to all the time. I want to see receivers he's never thrown to. That's part of the evaluation process, why Sanders and Ward and all these guys should throw. Because I don't want to see you in perfect conditions, because the NFL doesn't have perfect conditions. Whether it's weather, whether it's going on the road, whatever the things that are against you, playing a 10 a.m. game, if you're going West Coast to East, there aren't perfect conditions. I don't want to see you throw at your pro day only against with the receivers in a facility in a controlled environment with a coach running at you with a broom, which is dumb. That's not the league. I want to see you in Indianapolis, and they want to put it together so that they can see the things that are important, not stand on the sideline at your college or university and watch you have this thing that you've tried. Like, you've done this workout in this exact place for months. That's not how the NFL is. You're going to be thrown in an environment in Chicago, and it's 10 below, and it's blowing sideways, and there's snow in your face, and the running game can't get going, and you can't throw what are you going to do? Like, that's what I want to know. That's why I want Kelly, I'm going to give you millions of dollars if you can figure out a way of that. I don't want to see you in a perfect environment. Everybody can do a perfect environment. That's why the combine is the combine. I want to see you against other players in the same exact environment and how you work. It's unfamiliar. These are unfamiliar receivers. I'm just doing the quarterback thing because it's the easiest to do the comp on. And they're all nervous. I don't want to throw against receivers. I don't want to throw with receivers I don't know. Too bad. That's going to happen. You know what? You're in the middle of a game, like Brandon Ayuk last year. You're in the middle of a game. He rips the ACL, and you got to throw to Ricky Pearsall, who you didn't get any chance to throw with. Best of luck. That's the NFL. A guy gets hurt. Your left tackle got hurt. Now the pressure's on you. It's not a perfect environment. How do you handle it? Your running game is completely shut down in a certain week. Can't do it. The game plan was to run the football. How are you going to adjust? Oh, no, I'm going to have this perfect environment at my university with my coaches running everything, with my receivers that I throw to. Sorry. There's a guy coming off the bench right now because both the receivers got hurt. You didn't throw with him very much. Adjust to him. Nope, I don't know how to do that. Well, that's why the combine's there. And they understand what, not being, you don't have to complete every pass. That's the other thing that drives me crazy, those QB days. He completed 42 of 44 throws. Well, he should. He's been working on this thing for 3 months in this environment with these coaches, with these receivers. He should hit every throw. Like, I don't want to see that. Anyway, rant over. Let's see here. Oh, hey, Mike. Good to see you, friend. Just purchased my first ever bucket hat. Oh, my God. Well, way to go, man. The bucket hat is sweet, by the way. I've gotten samples of all of this stuff. the John Lund Unleashed store. Since you brought it up, and I'm going to make sure we get this thing fast through the system here. The bucket hat. Let me see here. Let's see if I can pull the bucket hat up here. I'd have to be very talented to do this. Anyway, you know what I could do? That's not going to happen. That's not a way to do it. I know where I can do that. I can go through the store. I'll do it a little bit later. But anyway, we have a John Lund Unleashed store, and there's all sorts of cool stuff from bucket hats to trucker hats to jerseys to shirts to baseball sleeves, cups, like, water. If you like to go to the gym, which I don't. The Stanley cups that everybody carries around, lovely ladies like to carry around and things. So we have all those kind of things in the store. And I do get alerted when you do those things because I make sure I can push those things through as fast as I possibly can. So you're the man. Thank you. And I owe you one for that. By the way, real quick, since you jogged my memory, thank you, Mike. For Lund loyalists, and people are asking me about this, I'm thinking tonight around 6. Does that work for Lund loyalists? And I need all your email addresses, though. I can't give you an invitation without your email address. So if you're a Lund loyalist and you want to be part of and I'll do these again, if you want to be part of the chat tonight at 6 o'clock, only for Lund loyalists. So if you send me an email, I'm a loyalist, and I double check and you're not. But we've got 9 spaces, so it's me plus 9 that we can put in the room all at one time. So we're going to have a 10-person chat, the first one for Lund loyalists only. So if you're a Lund loyalist, please send me an email, john@johnlundradio.com. Do it right now, john@johnlundradio.com. A, tell me if 6 o'clock works for you, because that's what I want to do tonight. And B, I need your email or I can't give you the link that gets you into the room and you'll miss out. And I want, and even if we only get like 5 people in the room, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we get everybody who's signed up. And if you can't make it tonight at I said 6, right? If you can't make it tonight at 6, I understand. We'll do another one of these so that you get your value out of your Lund Loyalist monthly contribution. I think it's $4.99, so you can do that. But we'll do that tonight at 6 o'clock. Please email me if you're a Lund Loyalist, john@johnlundradio.com, and I will send you the link to the chat. If I don't have your email, obviously I can't send you the link to the chat, which gets you in. You'll see backstage, and then I'll click you, and you'll be right here on the show, just like this. I mean, it's just like, all this stuff I've been popping up with John Lynch, like you'll pop up right like that. So, and we'll all be sitting here just like I'm sitting here, and we'll have multiple people on the chat. And we'll do that for, I don't know, half hour, however long it takes. But john@johnlundradio.com if you are a Lund loyalist, and we will then have a chat and have a lot of fun together tonight. 6 o'clock Pacific time. 6 o'clock Pacific chat, john@johnlundradio.com if you're a Lund loyalist. And we'll have you on the screen. So it's really cool having everybody in the chat. Obviously, we love it. Love doing roll call. Love having people come in to the chat. But I want to make sure that we do that, and we do the chat, and then everybody's going to be on the screen rather than just on the chat, which is going to be a lot of fun. 6 o'clock Pacific tonight, john@johnlundradio.com. All right, let's get to Jordan Hicks here. And by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to join on YouTube, John Lund Unleashed. And if you're watching on X right now, or Instagram, or Twitch, or Facebook, you can actually come over to YouTube, John Lund Unleashed, look it up, at least become a subscriber, and you can even become a Lund loyalist for $5 a month, which is nothing, because we're going to give you a ton of value. And I've even got a code, by the way, for Lund loyalists, a code which will get you 10% off your first purchase, which will basically pay for your shipping. So if you're a Lund loyalist and you're interested in gear, please let me know, and I'll get you 10% off with a certain code that I have in there that will automatically take 10%, which is basically like me paying for your shipping. So there's that. All right, let's get to this part. This is Giants baseball, everybody. I hope you don't leave me. I'm just going to do this quickly just because I saw this yesterday and I've talked about it. So Jordan Hicks pitches yesterday, and I've made this opinion known very well. Signs a 4-44 with the Giants last year. Didn't have a big problem with it because I thought eventually, they would try this starting thing when he was with the Cardinals and the Blue Jays, dude's gassing it up there like 102 miles per hour. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy should be in the bullpen. And I still believe that. I think Jordan Hicks should be the 7th inning guy blowing over 100. I think Duvall should be the 8th inning guy blowing over 100. And with that nasty slider when it's on. And then I think Ryan Walker with just his cross delivery would be perfect. Just his weirdness, and 7, 8, 9, boom, you got it. And so the questions I have with the rotation outside of Logan Webb with Verlander being 42, Harrison's young, Birdsong's young, Ray still coming back from the Tommy John. So I got questions there after Logan Webb, but it'd be a hell of a lot better if your 7th, 8th, 9 was Hicks, Duvall, and Walker. You're making these things 6th-inning games, which is what you want to do. But they're still running Hicks out there, and he was 5-and-fly last year, which didn't help the bullpen. And by the end of the season, he was gassed, and maybe he'll be in better shape this year. But I think he'd be much more effective as a 7th-inning guy, and his salary isn't that outrageous for that. But here is Jordan Hicks yesterday. This is Susan Slusser's piece. Let it eat. And what that means is it says Giants Jordan Hicks reaches 100 miles per hour in spring debut. I'm reading very well today. But the reason why he was able to, and last year he's throwing 95, 96 in that kind of a range, because he's got to save something for the end. And what Hicks said in that piece is that he said, this year I'm just going to go balls out, and I go as long as I go. And that's what he means by let it eat. Well, if you let it eat and you're a 7th-inning guy, you're going to be back to throwing 102, and teams are going to go, damn. If you think about teams, Jordan Hicks, they're a little, they're intimidated a little bit as a starter, kind of not. But he comes in the 7th inning blowing 102, and he can literally go balls out. That's what he does best, and that's what he's saying in the piece. So why is he a starter? Because as much as he may say that he's going to throw it hard and he's going to keep it going, you can't do that for that long of a period of time. So he'd be much more effective as a 7th-inning guy. And as I look at the rotation in what the Giants should be doing, 1 is Webb, 2 is probably Ray, 3 is probably Verlander, 4 Harrison, 5 Birdsong. I mean, those to me are your best 5 guys. Jordan Hicks could be in the mix, but Jordan Hicks is a starter. And what we saw last year, 5-and-fly, 5-and-fly, 5-and-fly. And early in the season, he was really, really effective. But then he got tired. And that's what I thought was going to happen. And so all these people who were attacking me because I didn't love the signing last year, I said, I'd rather have him as a reliever. And everybody was, early in the season, Lund, 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 Lund. And I got a bunch of grief. And all I ever said to anyone was, that's cool. I respect it. He's doing great. I said, but let's see what happens in the long run. And what happened is the wheels fell off, just like I thought would happen. And so now I'm looking at it going, you could have a hammer 7, 8, 9. You could play 6-inning games, 7, 8, 9 hammers, 2 guys throwing over 100 in the 7th and the 8th, and Ryan Walker is nasty in the 9th. Good night, everybody. Have a safe ride home, and the Seagulls can start mowing on the garlic fries. Let's go. Let's go. That's the way to go. That's his most effective way. And what teams do in every sport, you look at a player and he wasn't very good on a certain team, or you look at a guy and you scratch your head and they're coming out like the combine and you go, that guy can't do this, this, and this. What great teams do in every sport is they find out what a guy does well and they just ask him to do that. So if a guy doesn't do something well, don't ask him to do it. Look at things he does well and do that. We want you to emphasize that because that's what you do well. Well, Jordan Hicks wants to be a starter. I get it. I wanted to play center field for the Chicago Cubs. Ain't happening. It's not about what you want. We're paying you, and then we'll decide how we want to use you. They tried to make him a starter. That's fine. He was okay. But as a 1-inning setup guy, he's awesome. He's throwing 102. He's nasty. He's intimidating. That's where he's going to help your team the most. And so Jordan Hicks is a 4 or a 5 starter, a fringe guy. That's one thing. Jordan Hicks is a 7th-inning setup guy, could be one of the best in the league. So if you're the Giants, I've got to put players in a position to do the thing they do best on a consistent basis. And while Jordan Hicks had a great first half of the year, he was still 5-and-fly, which taxes your bullpen. And eventually, at the end of the year, the wheels fell off. So I got to do this again? I saw what happened last year. We got to do this again? Or do we just put him in the bullpen right away and say our 7, 8, 9 is nails? That's how you're going to win baseball games. I could be wrong, but I'm looking at this going, come on. He just said, let's eat, man. I'm going to go balls out. I'm going to throw this thing hard. That's what a 7th-inning guy does. So let that guy eat in the 7th or the 8th if Duvall can't handle it. Whatever. He's a reliever. So I might eat these words, and certainly early in the season I might eat those words, but I'm in it for the long haul. We're going to see what he's able to do, but I don't love it. All right, NBA-wise, the Warriors are in Orlando tonight to take on, hi, Mickey. And I love Orlando. Worked for ESPN for a long time. I'll go back to the game in just a second, but I was wanting to tell this story. So I worked for ESPN for a number of years, and we would have our corporate meetings every year in Orlando. And there was, I don't know if it still exists, but they had a ESPN zone there and all this different kind of stuff. And I think ESPN zone's gone away. But we do our shows live from there and all these kind of things. And I was in meetings during the week, and it was funny. I was working in Pittsburgh, and I was in meetings during the week, and we had certain Pirates players who we were paying, weekly to come on the show. And so I'm in the middle of a meeting in Disney World, which was very difficult, but I have a much better story right after this one. This is good, though. But I'm sitting in a meeting, and my cell phone keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. And so finally I take it and I walk outside. Area code in Pittsburgh's 412. So it's a 412, keeps calling me. And I'm thinking to myself, there must be something going down at the station. And I was running the station at the time. And so I get this call, and it's a guy named Jack Wilson, whose kid, Jacob Wilson, actually, this is how long ago this was. Jacob Wilson is a top prospect for the A's as their shortstop and looks really good. So his dad, Jack Wilson, played for the Pirates. Jack Wilson made plenty of money. And they were down at spring training, and he had about 6 or 8 players with him and their families. And I had what's called a silver pass. I could get up to 10 people in Disneyland, Disney World, whatever. I could just flash the silver pass, and up to 10 of us could get into the park for free. And this dude's making plenty of money, and then the players he's with are making plenty of money, but everybody wants something for free. And he's like, and he just kept calling and calling, and finally I pick up, and he's like, yeah, I'm at Disney World right now. We're getting a day off. I got my family here. I got so-and-so. I got like 3 families. He's got like 25 people. And I'm like, dude, I can get like 10 in. And he's like, come on, bro. So, I make a couple of calls. We get like 25 Pirates and their families into this damn thing. And all of them make millions of dollars, but they want free. Free. So anyway, there's one story. Best story, though, is, and you know this, you've gone to all these corporate type things, and you got to go to these things. So it's Friday, right, in Orlando. It's Friday, and we're just like, we're all hanging because Thursday night, and Friday, everybody goes home after these meetings, but Thursday night is the big blowout night of the week. You probably know this if you've been to any kind of corporate retreats or any kind of things like that. So Thursday night after the meetings, it's the big blowout night. Everybody's hungover. Really hungover. And we only had a couple of hours, I think, on the last Friday that just kind of a wrap up the meeting. Everything was great. So we didn't do 8 to 5 meetings or anything. This was going to be like 7 to 10 in the morning. And then you were off to do whatever you want. People are flying home on a Friday, going home, whatever. So we walk in, it's 7 o'clock, whatever. We're grabbing our coffee and everything. And then we see outside, as we thought we were going to meet and have these meetings again. Everyone's hungover going, man, it was a great time last night. And these buses pull up. And so we get this thing, and the big boss from ESPN comes in and goes, all right, everybody on the buses. You know how they are. Let's go. Yay. And everyone's like, oh my God, we got to get on buses. We're all hungover. What the hell's going on here? And they take us to Disney World before it opened. And I can't remember the damn ride, but you went through you probably know what it is. You go through all these caves. It's like a roller coaster, basically. And it was just opening, and it was going through all these caves. It wasn't like Space Mountain or anything, and it went in the dark. And then you'd get to the top point in the dark, and the damn thing would start going backwards. Like if you're at the front now, you're at the back, and it's going backwards. You're like, oh my God, and it's going through loops and all these kind of weird things in the dark. And so it was a brand new ride. I can't remember the name of it, but it was crazy. And I like roller coasters. But I didn't want to be on a roller coaster when I was that hungover, and everybody was hungover because, like I said, the Thursday night thing is the blowout of the night in Orlando. So they take all of us, and there was, we couldn't all get on there at once. There's probably, 100 of us, might have been more than 100 of us at this whole thing. So you're taking turns, and I was part of the first group that went through. So I was just happened to be in line, and so I go through the first group, and I'm telling you, it took everything in my power to keep my cookies down. This was not good. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I literally remember getting off of this thing and, wobbling back and forth and finding the nearest grass patch I possibly could and just laid on this thing and waited for the world to stop spinning. I was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe I survived that. Other guys weren't so lucky. There was guys coming off this thing going adjacent to me, near me, all over on the grass and everything like that. And it was like, afterwards, we all kind of recovered, and we didn't have any more meetings. They just said, thank everybody. And they bust us back to the hotels in Orlando at Disney World. And everyone was like, man, you really should have given us a heads up on that whole thing, because if we had known that we were going to go on these roller coasters, maybe we wouldn't have hit so hard. Now we would have. But it was not great. It was not great, because normally I'm like, yeah, throw me on that roller coaster. And I'd never been on it. But like I said, you're in the dark. And you go to the top, all of a sudden the thing stops. And you're like, what's going on here? And all of a sudden it goes back down and speeding, warp speed in reverse, and you're hungover. You're like, ugh. Anyway, so that's my Orlando story. And really, I used the Warriors at Orlando as the jumping off point for that story. So Warriors in Orlando tonight. But the big thing I wanted to play for you, I'll get reaction to that story in just a second. Not fun. The reason why I wanted to play this for you, and this is at the end, so let me bring this to the beginning. On this date, what is today? Thursday, February 27th. February 27th, 2016. Do you remember what happened? February 27th, 2016, Warriors related. Let me see if anybody can get it before I play it. Oh, there's more supers here, so I got to make sure I hit these. So let me make sure, again, February 27th, 2016, Warriors related. Does anybody know? Does anybody know? Does anybody know? Yeah, I'm going to get to Hackman in just a second. Yeah, the perfect emoji does exist. It was terrible. It was terrible. I mean, the world was spinning. I was laying on that grass, and then my eyes were closed, because we weren't going back for a while because there were 5 or 6 other groups that had to run this thing. So I probably had a half hour. I had like a half hour to lay on that grass. And as other people came off that roller coaster, you could just hear it. Yeah. I'm like, oh, man, yakety yak, don't talk back. I'm like, get away from me. And I just laid there with my eyes closed like, God, I'm glad that's over. Because I did it first. It was crazy. So anyway, all right, I'm going to play this. Again, February 27, 2016. What happened? Vernon. Vernon hit it first. Did Vernon hit it first? Was there somebody else? Thunder, not AC/DC Thunder. Thunder. Oh, Thunder versus Warriors, February 27, 2016. Double bang.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! With 0.6 of a second remaining.
How great is the dance afterwards? That's why people hated Curry, because I was like, man, he's doing the dance. Remember the sleeved jerseys? They got the sleeved jerseys going on right there, did the Warriors. But yeah, double bang, bang, bang. Mike Breen is so great. Mike Breen is so good. I don't love their broadcast team of Richard Jefferson and Doris Burke with him, but Mike Breen is amazing, and that is just a great call. Double bang. And we had Mike Breen on tons of times on the show. Every time he would come through the Bay Area, Papa was really good friends with him, and we'd have him on all the time. And the nicest guy you could ever meet. But double bang today, 9 years ago, February 27th, 2016. And what kind of balls do you have to have? And remember, this is 2016, so this is not fully like Steph being Steph, and Steph has the ultimate green light. I mean, this is like definitely back then, like, no, yes, no, yes. I mean, just an amazing shot by Steph Curry to have the balls to say, all right, they're not going to be up on me. And that's really what the revolution, I mean, 3-pointers, shot lots of them. But the revolution really that bothered people was, okay, I'm so confident I'm going to shoot this thing from like 35, 40 feet. Like Dame Lillard started at all these guys. How deep can I go? And so now people have to pick up, and for years now, they've had to pick up Steph Curry like midcourt. You can't let Steph Curry even get just past midcourt. And that's what's extended the defense, which has allowed all these things to happen because, okay, you're shooting a 3, that's one thing. But when you have to pick up Steph Curry at midcourt or just past midcourt, now all of a sudden your defense is spread out all over the place, and that opens all these things up for the Warriors. And that was the night, man. February 27, 2016, double bang. So good work. I'm sure there were other people who had that, but they didn't get there fast enough. So great stuff from Mike Breen. I do have a great Mike Breen story, but I probably don't have time to tell it. What are we, an hour 50 into this thing? We have time. We have time for everything. We don't have to ever break. Let me see here. Let me just check one thing real quick before I do this. So I don't know if you know this. Let's see. Oh, Joy Taylor has been sidelined by Fox Sports. Wow. That whole thing is really interesting. All right. Sidelined. What a term. Sidelined. I was sidelined at KMBR. So double bang. One story before we get to best dunk. So I don't know if you read this. It was in The Athletic years ago. Mike Breen had just a cautionary tale because I have the same thing. I have a shed, in fact, to the right of where I'm talking right now. And it's got all sorts of paints in it and weird stuff. And they've been there forever and you just don't know. And your lawnmower's in there and all these different things that are combusting. And Mike Breen was out of town. He was on a vacation with his wife. And his oldest son, they got this house in New York. And I guess close to this thing is a room that they had like above a garage or something. And his son was living in it. And they were having renovations done. Mike Breen was having renovations done. And everyone was out of town but his son. And he said, I got a weird feeling. Don't stay at the house tonight. I don't want you staying at the house. And he didn't want him in there anyway. I think it was in the Hamptons. Might have been the Hamptons, something like that. It was like a second house or something. And he said, we don't want you staying there. Just, go here and stay. Don't stay there. I'd got a bad feeling about it. Just please don't stay there. And his son kind of fought him on it. But eventually Mike Breen convinced his son not to stay there. And that very night, that shed that had all the chemicals and the paints and all the different things blew up and caught their house on fire. And Mike Breen lost his house. And his son, had he stayed there, would have died. And so Mike Breen saved his son's life unknowingly just because he had some weird premonition that something wasn't right. And he said, I just don't want you there during the construction. That's what it wasn't because of premonition. Now that I think about it, there was construction going on and they were doing stuff at the house. And he's like, I just don't want you to be there. And please just, don't be there and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Shed boy, Vernon. Shout out Derek Papa, Shed boy. But anyway, Mike Breen, that night, the house, that shed blew up and it caught the house on fire. And if the kid had been there, he would have probably died because he was close to that shed and blah, blah, blah. So there's my Mike Breen story. All right. Best dunk, Shaden Sharp of the Blazers. And it's not only the dunk of Shaden Sharp. Kevin Calabro, if you don't know Kevin, he's awesome. He did the Sonics back in the day, the Sean Kemp days. He called the Kemp dunk over Alton Lister. He'd done Sonics games forever. I think he and Kevin Harlan, and Harlan obviously does the national stuff, but Harlan used to do the Timberwolves. And when I first got into business, I did a morning show in Salt Lake City 30 years ago. And it was still, this is how old I am, it was reel to reel. And so I had to call this phone number, as weird as this sounds, and this is like at 3:30 in the morning. We were a big NBA town, and I'm hosting the show. So at 3:30 in the morning, I had to record on a reel, tape on a reel, what they called the NBA hotline or NBA call-in line. And you used a number, and then for every team, you had to put in a code for that team, and then you'd get the play-by-play highlights. And the teams that I would always do without question would be the Timberwolves because it was Harlan, and it was Kevin Garnett at the time. And he'd be like, he goes up high, he comes down hard. I mean, it was just he and Kevin Calabro were the best. And you always had to get Timberwolves highlights and Sonics highlights because Kevin Calabro was doing the Sonics games. And those two guys were incredible. Well, Kevin Calabro's been doing TV for the Blazers for a long time. And he did some ESPN. I don't know why he's not doing more national stuff because he's awesome. But he's a Northwest guy. And so when the Sonics left, he went over and started doing TV for the Blazers. So he's incredible. So this is Blazers TV. This is Shaden Sharp. And this is probably the dunk of the year.
What they were looking at. Outlet pass grab by Smart. Oh, Shaden Sharp cocked it back. A vicious right-hand hammer.
They got to quickly break. Oh, put the seatbelt on the kids. Shaden Sharp.
I mean, we got to play that again.
And I'm not sure what they were looking at. Outlet pass grab by Smart. Oh, Shaden Sharp cocked it back. A vicious right-hand hammer.
They got to quickly break. Oh, put the seatbelt on the kids. Shaden Sharp.
I mean, that is incredible. I mean, that's just like, are you kidding me? And so few guys will go up and try to contest a dunk anymore because they don't want to end up on a highlight. They don't want to end up on a poster. They don't want guys giving them grief. So whoever that dude was for Washington, I give him a ton of credit for even trying. But Kevin Calabro is great. He cocked it back. And I mean, that's awesome. Just incredible. And we'd have him on all the time. He was a good friend of Papa's when we were doing the show, but incredible play-by-play guy. So the call was amazing. The dunk was unbelievable. Very, very cool. That's probably Shaden Sharp. That is probably the dunk of the year. I mean, that is nasty. Grabs it, steals it, dunks it. Great call all around. That was tremendous. So that might have been the best dunk of the year. I'm not sure. Yeah, this nasty, right? I mean, nasty dunk. Just very, very cool and a great play and a great call. All right, before I get to more random things and the Gene Hackman story, let me make sure that we are not missing anything. Yeah, Jacob. I mean, his calls on Sean Kemp. Go to you're on YouTube. I was going to say go to YouTube after the show, please.
it's KC calling all of those, and Sean Kemp's dunks were just silly. I mean, just silly. The one over Alton Lister and Kevin Calabro called it. It was just unbelievable. Let's see. Disney, man. People are talking about Disney. Disney was just, oh my God. That was awful. Worst Disney. And they only did that one ride, but it was crazy. Like we're all hungover. We're on a bus going, where are we going? And I had a feeling. I was like, oh, they're going to put us on a roller coaster. We're all hungover. Just crazy. Yeah, I remember that too. Jazz fan. Mike Breen was working at WFAN, the original sports station in the entire country, WFAN 66, and doing sports updates for the Don Imus show. And he's just, I mean, he's so good. He's so good. And he's the nicest guy you could ever meet. He's just one of those guys that's like, oh, I'm not really that good. And you're like, bro, you're really good. I mean, sometimes he has to carry a broadcast. I mean, that's just how it is. He has to sometimes ask and answer. So in other words, he's doing the play-by-play and the analysis of it. He's just that good. And I hope that I hope he doesn't have to keep doing that, because I think they can improve that thing. But it is what it is. All right, let's hit some starred stuff. Let's hit some supers, and you can always hit me up with a super, and that means that you will guarantee get your stuff on the show. Mike says number one dunk call, and he repelled the Raptors down. Is that what that is? Dunk calls, man, so good. It's good to see you, Mike, by the way. Skills, and I'm glad that everything is going well for you, Skills. And by the way, I owe you, Skills. You got to email me too, because you have said such nice things about the show, and I saw a back and forth you had with a young lady, and it's good to hear that your daughter Josie is doing much better. That is awesome. But I just will say that you have championed the cause for the show on numerous occasions that I've seen, and I can't thank you enough. Just amazing. But you say Tacky Dreams at Chat Top. Yeah, we almost have to have one. I don't want you to make them up, but we at least have to do like weeklies of your dreams, because they're just amazing for those who are new. Skills will hit us up with certain dreams that he has, and it's unbelievable. So he's the best. And by the way, the most important thing is your daughter's doing well. But thank you for saying nice things about the show to people. It means a ton to me. Mike just got the bucket hat, as I saw before. The bucket hat is sweet, dude. In fact, I'll show you. I haven't gotten my orders yet, because I ordered like one of everything, just so I wanted to make sure what the process was like and everything, but very, very cool. Harry Johnson joined us a little bit earlier. That is a wonderful name. Harry is here. Thank you, Harry Johnson. Really appreciate that. And thanks to 707. And earlier on in the show, right after roll call, if you want to hear this, because I don't want to go on another tangent, but 707, I really appreciate it. And he says, podcast staffer from the State Hornet, what is your mindset before working? What are some things that you do to prepare? I went through that a little bit. My number one thing is I just try to outwork everybody. I love doing this. I'm probably here in this little studio from probably, my wife can tell you, midnight, 2 a.m., and I'm up at 6. I can't get enough of being prepared. I want to make sure I know everything. I outwork everybody and out-prepare everybody, and that's always been my secret sauce. It generally has worked for me. But my main thing is just I'm passionate about what I do. I care about the listener's time and the viewer's time, and I don't want to shortchange them of everything, and I want to make sure that I'm prepared in every possible way, and I just want to entertain. And I want to keep sports in its proper perspective. Like I said this a little bit earlier on in the show. I got an email yesterday from a viewer, a longtime viewer, and a person that is in this room on numerous occasions. And they were confident enough in me to say, I'm going through a really bad divorce with kids and everything. And I won't say their name or anything, but I know you went through this. What can you do to help me through it? And it's just the most difficult time of your life. And basically what my message was this too shall pass, that you'll get through it and you'll be amazed and you'll find the great second stage of your life or second act like I did. And you found somebody that fits you better. And all of a sudden you're like, I can't believe I went through that, but you're going to come down on the other side. And my wife's story is even crazier than mine. So you just have to have faith, like anything in life, ups and downs, roller coasters. Even if you vomit at Disney World, it's just going to be those kind of things. And you just have to, you have to have the ultimate confidence and belief that you will get through this, and this too shall pass. That's very simplistic advice. And I did more than that. But my point in saying this is that to have somebody have that kind of trust in me and email me and say, hey, it was just awesome. It was just an awesome thing. And it proves that we have such a great community here. And it's incredible. And people trust each other and they come in here and it makes their day. And sometimes I do forget about that. And so you can remind me. I'm just here to entertain and have fun and make people laugh and try to be real and all those kind of things. And it generally has worked, but it's a really cool community. And so I get this email yesterday and I'm thinking, man, how lucky am I that these are the type of people that come into our room. And you go to other places and other rooms, and I'm not calling anybody out, but there's a lot of hate and back and forth. And if you're new here, on whatever platform you're listening on today, you don't have to agree with me. In fact, I love that you don't. And if I'm saying something stupid, which is common, then you can say, have you thought about this? Or have you thought about that? Or what about this angle? Or can you talk about it from this way? Or maybe I just think it's awesome that we have these differing opinions. And for few places in our country now, if you don't think like a certain person and certain people, then it's like, well, then you're stupid and everybody gets angry. And we're just talking about sports, man. Like, if you don't think that I'm right about Jordan Hicks and you think he's going to be a great starter, that's cool, man. I'm here to listen. That's cool. Or, whatever, or Darnold, Stafford, or signing Brock Purdy, or these are all just fun stuff. We're the toy box around here of life, and we try to treat it like that. So anyway, done with that. The Gene Hackman thing, the thing is that you got to watch what you play on YouTube. And a lot of times you maybe go back and watch the show and maybe a certain song or a certain clip is gone or something like that. And it's like, you get these strikes against you and they say, well, if you just remove it, then, so I didn't put together a Gene Hackman, even though I love Gene Hackman, and he passed away today. He was in his 90s in New Mexico. And what's sad about it is, I don't know what your perspective is on life in this way, but if somebody loses their life in their 30s, 40s, 50s, get cancer early or something like that, that's terminal, it's sad. It's really sad because they haven't had a chance to fully live out their life. A guy like Gene Hackman, who passed away in his 90s with the tremendous life that he had and the tremendous talent that he fostered and just was one of the best actors of our generation. And I'm not saying it's a happy day when he passes away in his 90s, but he's lived a life, and it's a life worth celebrating when you've lived that long. But then we heard this morning, and there he is right there in Hoosiers. I didn't do a very good job of clipping that, of editing that, but there he is. Norman Dale was the name of his coach. And so that's why I put that tweet up there, Gene Hackman, 1930 to 2025. So, 95-year-old guy, tremendous in that movie and The Replacements, and go on and down the line. I mean, Gene Hackman was incredible, just incredible actor. But then you hear today that it was possibly carbon monoxide poisoning because his wife was 63. She died and his dog died. And apparently in the house, there was some sort of malfunction with carbon monoxide. And so it killed him. So it's sad. Normally, if he had died of just natural causes, which at the age of 95, you would suspect that was the case. When I first heard that Gene Hackman had passed away, I thought to myself, natural causes, 95 years old, a life worth celebrating. No, it's not happy when anybody passes away, but if you can say you made it to 95 and had the kind of success and respect that Gene Hackman had, then he won. But hearing that it's carbon monoxide and his wife passed at 63 and his dog and him, bummer. I mean, just an absolute bummer. It would have been anyway, but certainly under those circumstances. So that's what's being reported. I don't know that to be a fact, but that's what's being reported. But anyway, just to celebrate Gene Hackman's life, incredible. Just an incredible actor. And when I saw it, obviously it was late last night and early this morning, whatever it was. And it was my whole entire timeline. So I got to go back and watch Hoosiers or something after the combine. But what a great actor, and he's one of those guys that he's in so many great movies. You're like, oh my God, he was in that. Oh, that's right. Oh. So Hackman was amazing. Just absolutely amazing. Was living in New Mexico for the last number of years. And he and his wife passed away today. So very sad news from the world of entertainment with Gene Hackman. All right. Anything else we need to hit today, as we're about 2 hours into this baby? And I think we pretty much hit everything. Episode 72. John Lynch speaks, and I played the video for you and opined. If you would like to get more into it, so he talked about Kittle deal, Brock, Trent Williams, CMC, got to get cheaper but better, Deebo Samuel, all those kind of things. What I did for you, the Sweet Clean viewer, listener, however you're doing this on whatever platform you're doing it on, as you can see, and I'll pop this up really quickly, there is John Lund Unleashed right there. Meet your host. There's the front page. There's me. And if I can get this thing to scroll, latest YouTube shows, you hit that, you'll get more YouTube shows, latest podcasts, hit more of that for podcasts, latest blog posts, and you can get merch. There is the black bucket hat, by the way. You got a black one and a white one. There's the black bucket hat right there. It's a beauty. And you got the bottles, right? You got the water bottles. There's that cup that everybody loves. So you click on that and you can get more merch. But I digress. Here is the piece, and you can get not only the piece because I wrote around every video, but there's all these videos as well. So if you missed any of this stuff, there's a little teaser from me at the top that I did late last night. You like that hat, by the way? This actually is my first rodeo. So there is John Lynch on Purdy, John Lynch on Debo, and I got a little bit of writing under each one. Big Trent will be back. Greenlaw and Hafanga latest. CMC update. And started with Ayuk, but then he definitely sidestepped that question and ended with getting younger and cheaper. He did not talk about George Kittle on the podium because he was taken off to the side by the local media, but there's George saying, yeah, I want to get a deal done. And then there's Nick Wagner, 49ers GM. John Lynch said, George Kittle reps have had some talks on an extension, says teams wants to Takaya, blah, blah, blah. Lifetime 49er. That's something we all want to see become reality. And then there's Tracy at Tracy FGSN, who's at the Combine, and she'll join us next week. She's great. Does a great job covering the Niners. I know you don't want to hear this. The team still has a lot of belief in Jake Moody and feels the injury was a large part of his struggles. Lynch said they had very honest discussions. As in, we're bringing someone in, and if you keep sucking, we're going to replace you. So that's basically what you need to know from the Combine. If you missed it on the show today, just go to johnlundunleashed.com. In fact, all you have to do, you could just click on that QR code and you go straight to it. But there it is on the blog. So go to johnlundunleashed.com. You can see all the videos. You can read all of the little bits that I have in there. So if you missed, and that was the majority of the show today, is talking about John Lynch and what he said at the podium yesterday for the Combine, which starts today. The Under Olympics start running around today. So that's what John Lynch said. So episode 72, Lynch speaks, Purdy, etc. That's what we just went through on the blog, and you can read that and see the videos. NFL Insider Fight, which was Ian Rappaport and Jordan Schultz. Right on Darnold and Stafford, that was Adam Schefter breaking news that, hey, Darnold could go to the Rams and Stafford could go to the Raiders. Where'd he hear that? Here, stole it. Abdul Carter, could he drop in the range of the Niners? Possibly. Drew Rosenhaus saying, no, this foot injury is not going to affect him. We'll see. Combine starts today. Jordan Hicks is throwing 100. He still wants to be a starter. On this day, Mike Breen's double bang, 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 9 years ago today. Best dunk, Shaden Sharp. Awesome. Random stuff, which we did a little bit today, maybe not as much as normal. And Gene Hackman has passed away in New Mexico. Carbon monoxide poisoning, man. That is a true bummer there. So that is what we did on the show today. If you missed any of it, like I said, really, really simple. Now, if you want to listen to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast, we will be posting that minutes after we go off the air here. But also, I just want to let you know that when we post the show on YouTube, which is going on right now, within about 20, 30 minutes, we'll post the chapters. And so all you got to do is go back into the show on the YouTube channel. You click on, you can see where there's, after writing and everything and all the stuff that I write about the show. Click on that right underneath the video and you'll see chapters. And so not only, doesn't just say John Lynch speaks. It says John Lynch and then it'll say Purdy. It'll say, Greenlaw. It'll say CMC. Like it'll specifically break down at each point when we start talking about those kind of things. And if you want to fast forward, if you want to go to Jordan Hicks or Abdul Carter or Combine talk or the dunk again or the double bang or any of that, it'll be right on there and you can just skip to chapters and just watch which parts of the show that you want to watch. And so that's the chapters part of it. And it will be up right underneath the video when you replay it. Like I said, within about 30 minutes, we do that through AI and they just go boom, 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 boom. And so you can click on everything. It's very fancy part of the show. So there you go. Want to make sure we don't miss anything else on the chat line. Please make sure that you're subscribing. John Lund Unleashed. We're over 3,000 now, which I have you to thank for. Thank you for spreading the word and telling all your friends. Skills, especially you, brother. Really appreciate it. So we're there on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe there. Tell all your friends and enemies. Keep your alerts on because like last night, we posted that stuff from John Lynch and all the videos. We did that last night for insiders on the show, for people who follow the show. For subscribers, actually, we did it. So subscribers knew right when I posted that thing about John Lynch and had all the videos up. If you got your alerts on, then you would have known that as well. Thanks for everybody for watching on the platforms on Instagram and X. We're at John Lund Radio. Thank you so much. on Twitch, 2 YouTube channels, and I'll be able to be at liberty to tell you why. We're on a second one next week, I believe. We're on Facebook as well. You can follow me, John Lund on there, and John Lund Unleashed on Facebook, and that's where we put the show as well. So a lot of different platforms. And then one last thing, please, 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 if you're a Lund loyalist, hit me up at John Lund Radio. So John at John Lund Radio, John at John Lund Radio. And tell me if you can make the chat tonight at 6 o'clock. We'll do that chat that I've been promising the loyalists, where we'll put everybody on the screen, not just in the chat, but everybody in the screen that can fit. And if you email me your email address, which I'll have if you email me, and tell me you can make it at 6 o'clock, then I will email you a link right back to get you in the chat room tonight. So please do that. And if you can't make it tonight at 6 o'clock, I understand not everybody's going to make it. But that is for Lund loyalists only. And I think we have 9 of those that signed up originally. So the first 9 that signed up, that's what I'm going to put in the chat room tonight. So hit me up, John at johnlundradio.com, John at johnlundradio.com. And we will have you on the screen, not just in the chat. And we'll do that often. So if you want to become a Lund loyalist, we'll do that in the future as well. That's not just a one-time thing. So, but I wanted to get the first 9 because it's 9 plus me. We can put 10 in the room at one time. So that's what we're going to do. All right, what else do we have? Is that it? Everybody's good on this? Today's Thursday. Love of God, man. I got to get to the combine. People are keeping me away from the combine, man. The hell are you going? All right, there you go. Yep, I know you are one. Thank you, Christopher. I will make sure that I get back to you 6 o'clock tonight. And even if you can't make it right on time, it's no big deal, because what I'll do is you don't have to be there right at 6. I'll see you, which is crazy, but we have on this thing, on this forum, I have a little green room and I can see you in the back, and then I can pop you right onto the show. So if you're there at 6:01, it's not that big of a deal, or 6:05 or 6:30 or whatever. It doesn't matter. I can see you in the waiting room, and I'll pop you in there. All right. Anything else I'm missing? I want to make sure, because I haven't really been looking at, I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked at social media a lot, so something could have happened while I was gone. So, let's see. What's going on, Pine Needle? Something going on? I'm seeing something here, and I don't see the beginning of it. So if something's going on with you, brother, I hope everything works out. Sorry that I haven't seen this. Oh, you're talking about the Gene Hackman stuff, where it's the carbon monoxide. I said this earlier on a different show, but my son just lost 2 friends to the same damn thing. It's a silent killer. Please go to Home Depot and get the $15 detectors and put them up. We do have those in our house. Thank you, Pine Needle. Thank you for telling the people. Yeah, Gene Hackman, that's the way he passed away. And apparently his wife, who's only 63. So thank you for putting that up. Thank you for that, man. Just wanted to, I saw that going. I'm like, what's going on here? All right. All right, good stuff. Thank you again for hanging out today. If I didn't get you on roll call, or I didn't see you for a first time, please let me know next time that you're a first timer. We'd love to welcome you to the program. Make sure that you are subscribing, all those kind of things, as I keep saying. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Tonight, John at johnlundradio.com. We're going to have a chat for the Lund loyalists. Hit me up. Make sure you leave your email address so that I can put you on the list and give you a link to tonight's show at 6 o'clock. Thanks for those watching on YouTube, for watching on Instagram, on X, on Twitch, both YouTube channels, and on Facebook. I hope you have an amazing Thursday. I'm off to watch the combine. I'll tell you all about it, and we'll chat tonight at 6. If not, we'll talk to you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific and when news breaks. Everybody have a great Thursday. Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!